Good evening. I'm David Assad, the Chairman of the Zoning Board of Appeals for the City of Fall River. It is 6 p.m. on Thursday, August 18th, 2022. We are meeting at One Government Center in the first floor hearing room. Pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 38, Section 20, subsection F, I hereby notify all persons in attendance that this meeting is being recorded with both video and audio devices. Fall River Government TV, Craig Salvador, is recording both the video and audio version. If anyone desires to make an audio, video, or combination recording thereof, please notify me now and I shall make a public announcement of your intention. Our recording secretary this evening is Nina Kruger, the lady to my right. Present this evening are permanent members John Frank, James Corkin, Joe Pereira, and Dan Dupere. Also present is the city engineer and acting overseer of the planning department, Mr. Dan Aguiar, the gentleman to my far left. Nina, have all petitions to be considered been properly advertised and all interested parties notified in accordance with the rules and regulations of the Zoning Board of Appeals in Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 40A, as amended?
Yes.
I declare the August 18, 2022 regularly scheduled meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals of the City of Fall River open for such business as shall regularly come before it. I remind all persons presenting before the board, including the petitioners, abutters, anyone in support or anyone opposed to the petition, that your presentation should be limited to 3 minutes. Questions and responses must be directed through the chairman. The board's rules and regulations direct the board to specifically look for information which supports the petitioner's claim. As such, the petitioner should identify and factually support the basis for the petition. I hereby advise the petitioners and all interested persons that this board is the Zoning Board of Appeals. This board's authority exists pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 40A, and is limited in scope and deals with the use of land as regulated by Chapter 86 of the ordinances of the City of Fall River. Additional permits, licenses, reviews, and/or approvals may be required for the specific development and/or use which is the subject of the petition before the zoning board this evening. The clerks in the building, planning, engineering, and licensing departments are competent in the discharge of their duties as clerks. They are, however, not lawyers and are not competent to give legal advice. The action taken by this board has a real and lasting effect upon the title to your real estate. I urge all petitioners to seek competent legal counsel before filing your petitions and after a decision of the board has been made. For example, there is a city ordinance 2015-11, section 10-1 requiring site plan reviews. A copy of the ordinance is available at the city clerk's office or from the planning department. I remind everyone that the building inspector is the zoning enforcement authority, and you are here this evening because the building inspector has determined that your proposed action is contrary to the City of Fall River zoning ordinances. The city charter, section 9-18, mandates that all multiple member bodies develop and adopt rules or policy for public comment. We have adopted such a policy, which in short provides for citizen input on zoning board specific matters at the end of this meeting. There's a sign-up sheet on the table in the back in the hallway. I disclose that an official copy of the Fall River zoning ordinance is available at the city clerk's office. One cannot rely on the online zoning ordinance. Are there any questions before we begin? Hearing none, we'll start with agenda item number 1. Jonathan Vasquez, care of attorney Joseph F. Patello, 95 North 7th Street, map N2, lot 10. The applicant seeks a special permit allowing the expansion of an existing single-family dwelling. The applicant proposes the construction of an addition and conversion to a two-family dwelling. The applicant also requests a variance allowing lot coverage and exceedance as required in the ordinance. The property is located in an A2 zoning district. Good evening.
Good evening, members of the board. I'm Attorney Joseph Patello with an office at 901 Eastern Avenue, Fall River, Massachusetts. If you do remember, this matter was in front of the board previously requesting a variance. where it was pointed out that it would be more advantageous to file the request as a special permit due to the hardship requirement and the fact that the dwelling is already pre-existing. It is up now. The addition has already been made. I hope that recalls your recollection of the events. So we have in fact refiled this as both a special permit for the addition that's already there and the variance to extend the driveway that runs alongside of the house to the back part of the property, which is, as you can see from the plan, is a very large and sizable lot. So essentially, the special permit is only addressing the building, the addition that's less than 20 feet, and requesting that there has not been any height, the building has not been made higher, it just went back 20 feet farther from the street. That construction has already been done, and as I've said to the board, the wiring, plumbing, and the interior has not been finished. That will be done up to code with all permits that are required from this board. And the variance portion, as I've stated, is to request us to be able to extend the driveway that's already there, the paved driveway on the side of the building, to the backyard, to one, alleviate the hardship of the parking situation that's across our entire fair city, especially in the upcoming months in the winter. This will allow all the residents of this particular dwelling to actually park off the street, affording more parking to all of the people in this neighborhood. This building is essentially behind the, what do you call it, the Salvation Army building on, I believe, on Bedford Street, if you're not exactly aware of where we're talking about. And as the special permit does not require a hardship, we are seeking that the hardship for the variance that we're asking is for the additional off-street parking to alleviate the congestion we do have, especially when we do have parking bans in the city. There will be no detriment to the actual neighborhood. As from the front of the building, you can't see the addition in the back. It does not in any way harm the neighborhood. The building's not any taller. It's essentially the same structure. He just went back a little farther in the back of the building. And
You went back by that 19.1 by 20.1
exactly.
rectangle,
Yes.
and he's adding the proposed two-story deck, 14 by 12.
Yes.
Okay.
And that would be what we're requesting. And we would state that it does not degrade the purpose of the zoning ordinance as far as the special permit is concerned. The structure does not affect the abutters and does not cause any nuisance. And the special permit would not cause an impact or interfere with the ordinance. Also, considering the zoning in this area does allow multifamily dwellings, and there's a number of three-family dwellings in the direct vicinity. And the consequently, also, the variance we're asking for does not affect the butters, does not cause a nuisance, and in fact would be advantageous to this particular area, as it would alleviate the problem we all face in the city with parking.
Attorney Patello, how many off-street parking spaces are you proposing?
We're proposing at least 3 back there. By the plan that I see.
3 or 4?
It looks like you could do 4. That would be difficult. There's 4 spaces.
I'm just saying, two-family, based on our parking ordinance, you're gonna require 2 for each unit, so you'd need 4, and I just don't see it on the plan, but can you accommodate 4, do you know?
Yes, we could. If you see the plan, how large it is back there. If one car just parked when they're going back, I can see that. It looks like 4 parking spaces are available there, but certainly a 4th one can be facing the rear end of the street and the 3 other that way.
Okay. Thank you. Members of the board, any questions on this particular project?
The only question that I have, Attorney Patello, is that, as I recall, when this was before us before, this was built
Yes.
without equipment, correct?
Yes, it was.
Has the building inspector or one of the inspectors been down to at least look at the framing, et cetera?
Yes.
So they are aware of it, obviously, because of this petition.
Yes, we're actually here because we did bring this to the building inspector to get permits, and that's when my client who's sitting behind me, this young 24-year-old gentleman, that's when this actually became a problem, and the city was gracious enough to point us in the direction to be here in front of this board today.
No plumbing, no electrical's been
Nope.
done? This
That's-
is not being used in any way, shape, or form?
No, it is not. He is living off premises. No one is occupying the property at this time.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Anyone else? So, let me, before I add, is anyone in favor of this petition? Is there anyone opposed to this petition? I know we got a letter of opposition from, I believe it's Christopher Riley, and I'll read that in a minute, or maybe I'll have Nina read it, but anyway, there's a letter of opposition from Christopher Riley, but I'll bring to the attention of the board and anyone listening, under 86-426, non-conforming single and two-family structures, more particularly subsection B, in the event that the building inspector determines that the non-conforming nature of a structure would be increased by the proposed reconstruction, extension, alteration, or change, the Board of Appeals may, by a finding, and this is kind of important, which shall not require a supermajority required by General Law 40A, Section 6, allow such reconstruction, extension, alteration, or change where it determines that the proposed modification will not be substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing non-conforming structure. So the component piece dealing with the enlargement from a single family to a two-family, I think may be governed by 86-426 if we have a finding to that effect. The expansion of the parking, Attorney Vitello has requested a variance for it, and I think we can act on that if we want in terms of our decision, if we find that the shape of this particular lot, the topography, I hadn't heard anything about soil condition, and the hardship that exists on this particular lot is such that under 48 Section 10, we can grant relief. But that's a decision for the board to make. So the only letter of opposition that I find in the file, unless I'm missing something else, was, it was the same, August 4th, 2022, Christopher Riley, Golden Touch Naturals LLC, 115 North 7th Street, subject Jonathan Vasquez, 95 North 7th Street. Dear zoning board members, my name is Christopher Riley, owner of 101 and 115 North 7th Street, and abutter to 95 North 7th Street. I am opposed to the above special permit application for the following reasons. Buildings 95, 101, 115 are built on approximately 18 inches from each other. Recently, the owner of 95 lit a fire to burn building materials in their backyard when the fire department responded, issuing a cease and desist order. This event illustrated the potential of a fire engulfing all three builds. The neighborhood is also has a high density of tenement housing with very little on-street parking. As a result, the fire department had a difficult time accessing the recent fire. 95 North 7th lot size is approximately 8,000 square feet with approximately 30 feet of frontage. It is my understanding that this land does not meet the minimum requirements of zoning. Very truly yours, or respectfully, Christopher Riley, Golden Touch Naturals. So that was the letter of opposition. So,
May I respond to
yeah,
that?
please.
That gentleman was in fact here the last time we were. If you look on the map, he is the large building right off to the left. That building and my client's building are in that proximity anyway. What I am proposing, one things he did address was the off-street parking and the fire department being able to get there. This would in fact alleviate that. Any other opposition based on what he's saying, the fire department would still have the exact same obstacle to get through, because there already is, and in fact, a driveway on the side. The distance between the two buildings is still the same. We're talking about just another 19 feet. So I would suggest to this honorable board that this does not, in fact, substantially affect it as the concerns of that citizen. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, members of the board, you've heard the input, you've heard what the proposal is. So under the special permit, do we allow him to do it? Has he, and again, that's, I think, under 86-426B, we don't need a supermajority, but we do need the supermajority if we're going for the variance. So we'll do it in two parts. Let's see if the special permit gets... Oh, Dan, do you have any input that you want to give us?
The plan itself actually indicates 4 proposed off-street parking spaces, both in the table and the plan set. So if you look to the far left, there's a table of
I
required
see it,
parking.
required
proposed.
4, provided 4
And then
spaces.
behind, on the plan itself, there are 4 dimensioned parking spaces there, so I think they're covered with the parking. With regards to the building itself, the proposed structure is actually stepped back additional distance than the existing structure. So I don't think there would be, I think there's actually less of a non-conformity than currently sits for the existing building. I would request that the board deal with the 2 special permits separately, one for the extension of the non-conforming structure, and then also for the extension of the existing non-conforming use, and then deal with the variance separately.
Okay,
And just so that, just for record keeping, the abutting property, 115 and 101, have obtained 4 variances dating back to 1980 for use in the residential district, 2 additions that required variances, and then a most recent variance for a change in use for the business.
okay. So he's come before the board and gotten relief, the abutter has?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so I think we'll adopt Dan's suggestion. We'll do 2 pieces for the special permit, and then the last thing we'll do is the variance. So if we want, do I have a motion to grant the special permit for the change of use from a single-family to a 2-family by way of a finding that the non-conforming nature of the structure, and I guess this would be an alteration or extension, it's not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing non-conforming structure. If we say yes, then we should grant it. If we say no, then it should be denied.
I would think we would vote to create the building before we vote to occupy it.
To create so the change of use from a 1-family to a 2?
Yeah, the first, I mean, to allow the building of it first and then,
All right, we
Yeah,
can-
I mean,
So we can let
it-
him build the building, but we not necessarily tell him he's gonna be a 2-family.
yeah, well.
Okay, so do that. So break your
I
motion and
mean,
do that. I don't,
yeah,
just so long as we tie it together,
Yeah,
we're good.
no, I will move that we find that it is not more substantially more detrimental, and that we grant the
The
special
alteration
permit
or the
to-
reconstruction of the building.
Yeah, the enlargement of
Okay.
the,
So that's Jim's motion. Do I have a second on Jim's motion?
I'll second.
Second, Joe Pereira. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. John Frank?
Yes.
Jim Corkins?
Yes.
Dan Dupere?
Yes.
Joe Pereira?
Yes.
Chairman Assad, yes. Okay, so that piece, the building special permit is granted on that with the finding. Now how about the
I
change of
also
use?
move that we, having permitted the building of it, that we permit that the use of the 2-family would not be more substantially more detrimental to the area, and that we grant permit, or a special permit.
Okay, so the second part of it is Jim Corkins makes the motion for a change of use from a 1-family to a 2-family. Do I have a second on that motion?
Second as well.
Second, Joe Pereira. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. John Frank?
Yes.
Jim Corkins?
Yes.
Dan Dupere?
Yes.
Joe Pereira?
Yes.
Chairman Assad, yes. Okay, now we'll go to the variance stage of it. We're granting a variance as he met the standard under 48 Section 10, that this particular hardship, shape, and topography warrant a granting of a variance to extend the driveway. And I think that there really isn't waiving any dimensional requirements required, it's just the extension or into the rear of the lot.
Isn't it an area?
So
In
just
area-
lot coverage.
Lot coverage,
is
yeah.
the exception, or the variance that we're looking for.
Lot coverage would be the singular item that they need.
I find that the need for the additional parking justifies the need, or the variance, and move that we grant the variance for lot coverage variance.
Variance for lot coverage. Jim Corkins, any second on Jim Corkins' motion?
Second.
Second, Joe Pereira. Discussion on the motion.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I have one question.
Go ahead.
Now, did they say that the decks weren't constructed yet?
No, I think they're proposing to build the decks.
I bet the deck's not there yet, are they? I don't believe the decks are there, so.
They're not there yet, so won't he have to come back to a variance to build the decks too, unless we grant that as well?
I would think that that's included in the.
So
in the
if we want to go back, we
It's
can.
on the plan.
No, so if we want to go back to make it clear, the fact that you're raising it, I don't want the building inspector, and I don't want him coming back for 14 by 21
Right,
deck.
right.
So,
Two-story.
let's deal with the variance, and then we'll go back
To
and modify that
Right.
first one to include the building of the deck. Is that,
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought it to the attention to the board.
Do we need to specify what percentage of lot coverage that
It's on
we're
the plan.
varying?
So whatever it is on the plan,
Okay.
maximum
But
lot
we need
coverage
to
is
state
30%,
that.
he's
No,
provided
according to the plan.
50% according to the plan would work. So is that your motion?
That's my
Grant,
motion,
okay.
yes.
So Jim Corkins' motion, we had a second from Joe Pereira, I believe.
Yes.
No, any discussion on that motion? Okay, hearing none. John Frank?
Yes.
Jim Corkins?
Yes.
Dan Dupere?
Yes.
Joe Pereira?
Yes.
Chairman Assad, yes. Okay, so the variance is granted.
Mr.
We'll go
Chairman,
back-
I move that we modify the special
Permit.
permit that was granted for the extension of the building
To include-
to include the addition of the deck.
Okay, so the motion is made by Jim Corkins to modify the first special permit for the extension of the building to include the 14 by 12 deck as shown on the plan,
I will second for the sake of discussion right now.
okay?
So in discussion, it's shown.
It's shown.
We didn't particularly mention it, but it's shown, and that's what we voted on, is the plan that's before us.
That's correct.
So maybe this is kind of a safety net addendum to the original motion, but it's here.
It's
So-
here according to the plan.
Yeah,
But the fact that Dan had to ask that question,
makes it.
let's
means
make
it's
it, let's
ambiguous,
nail
yeah.
it down so that's Jim Corkins' motion to make sure that it's there as a safety net, that as shown on the plan, the deck is also included in that grant of the special permit. Okay, so you seconded it?
Yes.
Any discussion on that modified motion, that motion to modify number one? Hearing none, John Frank?
Yes.
Jim Corkins?
Yes.
Dan Dupere?
Yes.
Joe Pereira?
Yes.
Chairman Assad, yes. Okay, okay, you've got your special permits, you've got your variance.
Attorney Vitello, before you leave, not a zoning-related matter. The city sent the property owner a nuisance vegetation letter regarding O'Grady Street. The vegetation from his property that has encompassed the sidewalk area.
Yes.
And we're asking that he take steps to remedy that situation quickly.
And I will contact your office
Great.
first thing and find
Thank
out
you.
exactly how
Well,
it's
then
supposed
just the process, the way that it happens, and it was, elaborated in the letter. If he doesn't do it, we will hire someone to do it and send him a bill. So this is an
Completely
opportunity for
understood.
him to.
That
And then it will be a lien, and then what do you want, so, get,
It'll
Let's
get,
get it
it'll
clear.
get taken
get it
care of.
done.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Madam Clerk, members of the board. We greatly appreciate it.
Have a
Thank
good
you, Attorney
evening.
Vitello. Thank you all. Goodness, things are getting longer and longer. Okay. Agenda item number 2, Evelina Costa, Manuel Furtado, E&M Properties LLC, care of attorney Mark L. Levin, 162, 170 French Street, map 004, lots 18 and 57. The applicant seeks a variance to redivide the parcel into 2 lots, leaving an existing single-family on 1 lot, waiving area, frontage, coverage, front yard and side yard requirements, and an existing 2-family dwelling on 1 lot, waiving frontage, area, lot coverage, and side yard requirements in an A2 zoning district. Good evening, Attorney Levin. Tell us what you'd like to do.
Mr. Chairman, Madam Clerk, members of the board, Attorney Mark L. Levin, 138 Rock Street, Florida, Massachusetts. My clients, Evelina Costa and Manuel Furtado, bought a single-family home, and then in a corporation, E&M Properties Llc, they bought the adjacent property. They came before this board in 2006 to re-subdivide these lots so that they would add a little more land to the 2-family, because there was an encroachment in the back of the property where the deck on the 2-family was on the land, which was an odd-shaped lot, that single-family lot at 162 French Street. The deck was on their land, and that's an L-shaped lot. Both lots are odd shaped. They're pre-existing for years, and although they got a variance the last time, they probably could have got a special permit under the statute since they've been there before zoning. After they got that, they went to the planning board, got a plan, recorded that plan. Unfortunately, they did not realize they needed to transfer title from one property to the other, so that the variance lapsed because it wasn't exercised by actually changing their position, because the law is just recording the variance and a plan is not sufficient to change their position. So we're here to re-subdivide the property so that I can remove that little area in the back where it says old property line, so that you see where the patio is on the back of the two-family. It will be on its own lot instead of encroaching on the abutting lot. The nice part of this, it creates, well, at least as to the single family, a nice clean triangular lot.
Rectangular.
Rectangle. The other lot is its shape. They both can have sufficient parking as required by the zoning bylaws. And they are pre-existing, where they're odd shaped for the entire neighborhood, in fact, by its own thing. And the placement of the buildings are such that they're unique, that obviously you're not gonna tear down the building to rebuild it in a location, in a different location. So we're asking that you allow us to exercise by a variance, re-subdivision, because I can't go back for a special permit because they already did a variance before, to allow the transfer of that small area to the two-family to conform to the plan that was actually put on record back in 2006.
Attorney Levin, you're showing proposed driveway and parking.
Yes,
So we're going to now create some parking there to make it.
that's correct. Presently, for the single family, there's no off-street parking. That will be added to the
So you're
property.
creating 9 by 20, two spaces there.
That's correct. On the other property, there's a whole area in front that's all parked, paved area.
Oh, it
for
says
parking.
existing driveway and parking, I see
Yeah.
that.
But for the single family, it never had off-street parking, so they are now adding that to conform to the zoning requirements.
Okay. So you don't, what do you need relief from?
Well, I mean, it's as if there are two separate lots, but two separate owners, but I need to take away the L shape from the
Yeah,
single family.
no, so we got that, the transfer is there, but I'm thinking about the litany of things that you had in the petition. So
Well,
we need to waive frontage,
Frontage area for the single family anyway.
as shown, waive, so really it's, if we use the plan.
Yes.
And we waive all the dimensional requirements as shown on the plan,
Yes,
that
does it.
that'll work.
It's really just lot area for the
Yeah.
lot of 162.
right. It's a small one that,
All of the existing
it doesn't
setbacks,
conform to anything.
nothing changes.
Yeah, nothing, so,
Yeah, I'm not changing anything, it's just that they.
no, but that's
I won't-
that's why,
Yeah.
the litany of things that you wanted, and all I'm finding is just, it's the area that needs to get changed.
And I don't think lot coverage, well, maybe lot coverage just,
I don't know, coverage was, 30, and I don't see that as being an issue anywhere.
yeah, he didn't mention that, so I guess he made that. I asked him if it did, and I guess he does.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone here in favor of this petition? Is there anyone here opposed to this petition? Okay. Members of the board, what do you want to do? Has the, provided us with sufficient information on shape, topography, the existing structures, soil condition, which I didn't hear anything about. Has he met the standard of having the hardship? And he's got that encroachment that exists. If we think he has, then we should have a motion to grant. If we think he hasn't, then it should be a motion to deny.
Make a motion to grant.
Motion to grant, any, no conditions required. Okay, motion to grant, John Frank, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second, Dan Dupere. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. John Frank,
Yes.
Jim Corkins.
Yes.
Dan DePere.
Yes.
Joe Pereira.
Yes.
Chairman Assad, yes, okay, that's
Thank you.
granted. As shown on the plan. So I don't want to give you my notes. But there's nothing in the file. Thank you. Agenda item number 3. Joaquim and Liliana Dias, care of attorney Mark Levin, 60 Linwood Street, map C17, lot 86. The applicant seeks a variance to divide the parcel into 3 lots, leaving an existing single-family dwelling on 1 lot, waiving frontage, lot coverage, and rear yard requirements, and to create 2 buildable lots for single-family dwellings, waiving frontage, area, and lot coverage requirements in an R8 zoning district. Attorney
Thank
Levin?
you. Just to clarify, the lot coverage is not an issue on this. When they redesigned the plan from what they first gave me, they were able to meet the lot coverages, so that's not a request any longer. What my client has here is an extremely, actually, it's the largest lot of land in this neighborhood. The placement of that house, where it's located in its garage, makes it difficult to do much to create anything that would conform to divide this property up. Across the street, although not precedent setting, the board, this
Thank you
board
for
had
saying
given.
that.
Yeah, I know that. But the board did provide divisions of a large tract of land into smaller lots because it looked what the conforming and character of that neighborhood is. This obviously lot of over almost 23,000 square feet with 1 house on it is pretty large. It is an odd-shaped lot itself. The house exists already there with its garage, so it's not like we're going to tear it down. That would be certainly a feasibility of economics that would not work to cut it up and take it down. So my clients are at a position that they do need to relieve themselves of some of that land in order to support themselves. They've proposed to create 2 lots that are approximately 6,000 square feet. They're short the area. They can meet all the other requirements, sideline setbacks, and the lot coverage, but they lack the frontage. Obviously, the lot in the back, it's an odd-shaped lot. They didn't want to tear down their house and garage, so it has a smaller frontage area. The rear of the building doesn't meet current zoning, so when I'm cutting it up, I'm asking that we can keep that pre-existing 7.9 feet without tearing down the house. Each of the lots will have 2 parking spaces as required by the zoning. It's just that I am what it is. It's the largest lot in the area. It's unusual for the shape and size of this neighborhood, and the uniqueness of where that building is such that it prevents us to do a whole lot with the property.
Except you end up with 3 non-conforming lots.
That's correct.
So if you said, and I'm not telling you what to
Sure.
do, I can create a conforming lot, and the remaining house would be the non-conforming lot with the frontage. So you get one with all the dimensional requirements, 8,000 square feet, 80-foot frontage, 20-foot front yard, 15-foot side yard. And so instead of getting 3 lots out of it, you get 1 conforming lot, and the existing house would have reduced frontage by, you'd have 60 feet of frontage instead of 20-foot driveway. But that's just my approach to it.
Well,
I think 3 lots is like,
I understand. This is what was presented to me, and I'm
no, I
here
got
to
it,
let
I
you
got
know.
it, but I'm just, I'm
If the
bringing it
board-
to your attention
Yes, no,
of what I see, and
I
it's
do
like
see it.
25 pounds in a 5-pound bag.
I do see it, but, this is what the client asked me
Got
to
it.
present, and, I tried to do my job to present.
No,
what they give
that
me.
is your job. I'm just asking the question whether or not that was just, that's the chairman's view, I can't speak for the rest of the board.
No.
But that's what I see. And just, I don't remember, but I think,
6,000.
Okay.
66.
members of the board, any questions on this particular presentation?
Yeah, Counsel, did you discuss that alternative or any alternative with your client before?
I did originally ask them if they would want to modify this, but the surveyor was adamant that this was a good plan for the neighborhood. So I was left to what I was
Yeah,
left
no,
with.
we got that answer, that's it, that's what he's got, that's what he's asked to present. Okay, John, anything, any questions? No? Jim?
If the board feels that this is inappropriate, I mean, I'm more than
No,
willing
no.
to.
Let's see, is anyone here in favor of this petition? Is there anyone here you're in favor of it, sir? You're probably the owner, yeah. All right, anyone opposed to this petition? Okay? Well, that's what we've got before us. Have they met the burden of Chapter 48, shape, topography, soil condition, hardship concerning the land, not a personal hardship, and I understand what Attorney Levin had said, that this would be good to create a lot, sell it off, 1 or 2 lots, but personal hardship does not rise to the level of hardship for a variance. And before I go any further, Dan, is there anything that we should know from a planning standpoint?
Just that, although the direct abutters all far exceed the minimum lot requirement, the lots across the street were granted relief. And the relief that was granted to a number of those lots through Linwood and Whitefield
Yep.
have resulted in a substantial drainage issue for that entire watershed area that the city has had to take responsibility for and make corrections to. So the grant of this relief may exacerbate that issue. If the board does want to move forward with the petition, I would still include the proposed lot coverage variance, because the calculations provided deal only with the footprint of the house. Do not deal with the off-street parking spaces that may put you over the 25%, so
Okay, fair enough.
I would just leave that in there, just so that when it
Good.
comes to site plan review, they don't have to come back when they find out that they've exceeded lot coverage.
So if the board chooses to grant, then we should
Include
include
the
that
lot coverage
component
as
in
well.
there. Okay. All right. Members of the board, has he met the burden? Should motion to grant, motion to deny?
I'm at motion to deny.
Joe Pereira, motion to deny. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Oh, stereo. Dan Dupere. Okay, second, Dan Dupere. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Dan Dupere.
Yes.
Joe Pereira.
Yes.
Jim Corkins.
Yes.
John Frank.
Yes.
Chairman Assad, yes. Motion to deny is granted. So this
Thank you.
petition- Wait.
You want to take his number 7, so that he doesn't have to
Yeah.
stay for 3
Yeah,
months?
that'd be great if you could.
Yes, I'll be happy to. Let's get him home. Bernice's got supper on.
And they get paid by the hour.
So number 7, Tuscan Properties Llc, care of attorney Mark L. Levin, 145 Globe Street, map H13, lot 1. The applicant seeks a special permit to convert the second floor into 13 residential units, leaving the existing commercial offices and light as in not heavy manufacturing uses on the first floor. Relief from parking is also required. This property is located in an R4 zoning district. Attorney Levin.
Chairman, again, Attorney Mark Levin, members of the board, Madam Clerk. Has little butters.
Okay, we'll make that part of the record, we'll read that in.
I would like to correct the advertisement. I know that came from the building inspector, but we're not asking for any parking relief. We actually exceed what the parking requirements are. Somehow he put that in, it wasn't in my petition, but he did add it into his, but just so you know, we're not asking to waive that. We conform to parking.
I'm gonna ask you to do the mathematical calculation because I come up with a shortage of 2 spaces.
Well, the engineer came up with this. This is the one that provided
So,
on the
what,
thing that he had
7, 11, 5, 13,
Yeah.
a total of 36. Am I missing
26
2?
spaces for the
Two.
residential. He had 17 for the first floor, which exceeded 1.
Let me look, I
The
messed this
total of
up.
34 spaces exceeds 1
The
extra.
Vice Chairman is pointing it out, that there's the 2 that I'm missing, he found.
Oh, okay. And there is 1 loading bay too.
There's 2 spaces out on Globe Street.
That's the 2 that I'm missing.
Yeah, so they exceed the minimum requirement. But that's okay.
Okay.
I mean, it's less
I'm
than you
looking
have
at
to
the roof
waive.
drain, I did not see the two. Go ahead.
It's less you have to waive.
No, that's
just
good, no,
want-
I'm glad, because I was doing the math, and I said, I'm coming up too short.
Okay,
Go ahead.
we have one extra. So, this is a very unique property. As you know, in Fall River, we have a lot of historical properties that unfortunately have been torn down over the years to make way for development. Even though good intentions were some of the projects I've come before you on, unfortunately, at times the developers found the building is so bad that they had no choice but to remove that building. This is one that we don't want to remove. This is one that my client about 17 years ago purchased and improved over the years and have done major work on the property during that time. What this property is a building that was built somewhere around 1887. It was an industrial building. Back then, there was no zoning. In fact, it was an industrial facility initially. At some point during the war, there was a parachute factory in that building. Later on, it was a printing company. There'd been professional offices. There was a toy manufacturing business there. Now, on both floors, there is a hodgepodge of different light manufacturing, offices, and businesses. My client has found that over the years that the area has changed. It obviously was zoned two-family at one point, and this property has always had this non-conforming use in this neighborhood. The building itself is an extremely large building on an extremely large lot. It doesn't make sense to do a new development by taking down such a historic building and lose something for its character to see this to build a whole bunch of little two-family homes on the property or single families. So my client has found that, you know, in having businesses coming into the property and now having larger manufacturers that are interested in properties going into the second level of this property becomes a difficulty for them. They find it a hardship in that area that they can't get to the highway fast enough or bring a lot of machines in. Instead of keeping this non-conforming use, we're asking that we turn the second floor into residential uses, 13 of them. In fact, they actually gave you the plans for the interior of those. I told them they didn't have to, but they did. They're large units, they're gonna be comfortable units, they're gonna be high-end units. The idea is to turn the second floor into these apartments to reduce the business activities that are there now and provide different hours of day and night for traffic. And this will be now housing. The first floor will still have more of the commercial offices there, and part of the first floor they're going to use for storage and a laundry for support of the second floor tenants. We think this is a good use of this property. We think that the change of the non-conforming of this property to, unfortunately, another non-conforming but more compatible to the neighborhood is not substantially detrimental, and in fact, more appropriate.
Detrimental.
Yeah, it's more appropriate.
Substantially more, not detrimental.
Not detrimental, yes, and more appropriate to the neighborhood. The neighbors have all multifamily homes surrounding it. So we've provided for parking. They will also have handicap parking made out of some of those parking that aren't there. They were making improvements to the interior of the property, substantial to the exterior other than cosmetic uses. There aren't going to be any changes to the property. It's in a location that's isolated in Fall River and it has become more residential. We think that, you know, here is a way to keep a historical building, not take it down. It's unique in itself that it's set on this property in this location, and to take away something from Fall River where you can upgrade it and have use of an existing building is preferable than to tear it down and build a whole bunch of two-family homes on the parcel. So we're asking you for a special permit saying that this will not impair the neighborhood. It obviously isn't going to increase traffic or impair traffic because It is actually taking business activity away that comes in and out all day long and many evenings. They do have businesses that have actually open at nighttime presently, that'll be eliminated. And this is not something that would pose a hardship to this neighborhood. We really think that although it's a non-conforming, one non-conforming use to another, this is more appropriate to make it residential than the commercial industrial uses that have been used for many years.
On one of the plans, and I'm looking for it right now, you had a area designated as storage for tenants. And
That'll be in the first floor, they're gonna have
no,
that.
but it's going to be exclusively for tenants. It's not gonna be storage area for any of the
No, just the
business
tenants.
activities.
Yeah,
So a condition that the storage area is shown on the plan shall be
yes,
exclusive to the tenant use and not an expansion of the business activity.
that is correct. The idea was after they started with this plan, they realized that these are nice big units. They're planning to attract, families that will come in to live in these units, and that instead of using up space inside, up in their own apartment, they'd have place on the first floor to be able to bring things in and store there. In fact, we'll have laundry, washing machines and dryers for them there, so they don't even have to have it on the second floor. That'll be provided by my client as part of the project.
All of the first floor, commercial use is office, correct?
Most of it's office,
There's no manufacturing.
Is there
There's
some manufacturers like manufacturers?
There is some warehousing
I
space.
see warehouse.
Assembling.
There's an assembly company
That's
there
no
that,
longer now.
oh, okay, they're going then.
But we're not,
Okay.
but
They
you're
were
not,
going.
you're not eliminating that use. You're not telling the board. So you should keep,
No, we want to keep what we have.
Got it. No, no,
That's
that's-
non-conforming on the first floor, to
that's
still
my-
use it. Yes,
yes.
thank you.
I want to make sure that it's staying, that he's not saying remove it, I'm getting rid of the manufacturing part or the assembly part. Whatever use is going on there stays on the first floor. There were, I think I counted
Except for
11
this-
units,
yeah.
11 offices. God
Yeah.
love you. Go ahead.
First floor, there was a small printing business. They assemble catalogs and such things that are part of the printing process. There is a group of professional licensed psychologists in an office suite there as well, along with a psychiatrist. There is the office that I occupy as the owner and carry on with the business of managing the building. The second floor, there is currently a dance studio. The rest is vacant. The rest of the first floor is also vacant, other than the offices and the print shop, et cetera, that I described. So that's the makeup of the business of the building. Prior uses, as Mr. Levin indicated, was a parachute manufacturer. There was a manufacturing components operation and a machine shop some years back. I don't have a whole history of prior to that.
But the second floor, commercial use, will be abandoned. That
Yes.
will now be residential.
That's correct.
We're not dealing with any change of use on the first floor.
No.
No.
No,
We're gonna keep that intact as it is, except for.
The storage
Except for
and-
the storage
yeah,
area that will
laundry
now
room.
become designated as exclusively residential tenant use only.
that's correct.
That's all I wanted. I wanted to make sure that what we were doing.
That's correct.
Okay.
My concern was
Good.
commercial use or manufacturing / print shop, whatever it may be, underneath 13 residential units.
That's a problem for the owner of the building if you're gonna live upstairs. There's a
It's a
three-bedroom.
problem if
and
you're
there's a-
living upstairs.
And there's a one-bedroom and everybody else is two-bedroom. So that's gonna be his marketing problem.
It's light manufacturing. I mean, again, it's more of traffic coming in for a truck coming in to bring in paper and taking it out. The printing itself is a smaller operation, but it does exist. And, as time goes on, people, why my client decided, because this has been an area that is not as accessible and not as business friendly because they can't get to the highway as much. So a lot of people that come in there look at it, it's a nice building, too bad it isn't located down 195. So that's why he's finally got to the point that he wants to keep what he has. They want to keep the professional offices. Yes, there is a printing company. That's, I think, the only one that has a real light manufacturing. But, you know, he wants to get rid of the second floor. I mean, now it's the big dance studio
I
there.
just want to make sure that the board
Yes,
doesn't
knows
interfere
that.
with the first floor activity.
Correct.
And whoever's gonna rent upstairs, they know what they're getting into. That's not the board's job
No.
to say, hey, you're gonna go live upstairs above. That's what you wanna do, God love you. Okay. Anybody else, members of the board, any questions? Is there anyone here in favor of this petition? Is anyone here opposed to this petition?
Well, we did give you that.
Let me make sure they're not
Sure.
here. So we have this statement of support, petition of Tuscan Properties Llc for special permit, the undersigned being abutters and/or neighbors of Tuscan building owned by Tuscan Properties LLC, to convert the second floor of the building and the present pre-existing industrial commercial use in order to permit 13 residential apartments units on the second floor with storage for occupants of the apartments on a portion of the first floor, with the remaining portion of the first floor dedicated to light manufacturing and professional office use as at present. Hereby state support for the same. We believe this proposal will be of an equal or more appropriate use of the building and a benefit to the neighborhood. So it looks like I have Bento Moniz, 145 King Street, Cheryl Moniz, 145 King Street, Manuel Alves, 126 King Street, Street, Maria Alves, 126 King Street, and Helen Medeiros, 103 Globe Street. So those of you, you're in support of it, here's it, make it part of the record. So that's what we've got, members of the board.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I find that, or move that we find
Special-
that a special permit be granted that it
That
is
such
not
reconstruction
substantial or
Shall not
substantially
be
more
substantially more detrimental
not
than the existing
substantially more, yeah.
non-conforming use. Okay. Under 86, 424 or 425.
It's a tongue twister.
Well, we just need to make sure the record's clear and we write it up, so Mr. Amaral gets what he needs. Okay, so that's your motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second, Dan Dupere. Any discussion on the motion? Do we want to make the condition that the storage unit is going to be exclusively for residential use, as shown on the plan?
I don't see a need to.
Okay? It's your motion. No? Okay. Dan Dupere, second. All those in favor? Dan Dupere.
Yes.
Joe Pereira.
Yes.
John Frank.
Yes.
Jim Corkins.
Yes.
Chairman Assad, yes. That petition's granted. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Now, let's see. I think I need to just put it back in some format. Okay, now we'll pick it up with agenda item number 4. First Bristol Corp. care of attorney Peter A. Solino, 37 Park Street, right?
Your Honor, I'm offended.
Alphonse, come on. Map G6, lot 25, 28, and 29. The applicant seeks a variance, a special permit, to utilize the property as general medical and professional office spaces. The applicant requests relief for lot size, coverage, frontage, parking requirements, and all setbacks in an A2 zoning district. Thank you, Attorney Solino.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Peter Solino. My office is at 550 Locust Street here in Fall River, and I represent the applicant, First Bristol Corporation. The petition before you right now involves the former site of the Atlantis Charter School located at 37 Park Street in Fall River. Prior to 2018, when the new school was built out near the Boyd Center, this school was operable. There were 450 students, 75 teachers, there was no busing, and there were 16 parking spaces. The proposal is, as depicted in the plans, to acquire a piece of property from the diocese, which is a portion of G625, to acquire a piece of property from St. Anne's Hospital and/or Steward Corporation, G628, and combine those parcels with G629, which is the charter school location. The proposal includes the creation of 66 off-street parking spaces, some of which are included in the parcel to be acquired from the diocese, which again is G625. And then on the easterly side of the property, the applicant proposes a parking deck with parking spaces at grade and parking spaces on the deck, which total 39 spaces. It's submitted to you anyway that the office use that's proposed is much less dense than what was there. The overall plan for St. Anne's Hospital is to attempt to move their office space out of the hospital, so there's more clinical space in the hospital, and this use would support that mission. It's also important that I note for the record that the project itself is contemplated to be an $18 million rebuild, inside, outside. We're going to have approximately 75 construction jobs. We're going to preserve a historic building, but in that preservation, we can mitigate some of the things that are in there, such as asbestos. In order to do so, though, we need the relief of this board in a variety of manners. And I'd submit to you that the hardship in this situation is the site itself and the location of the existing building mere feet from Park Street. I have in my petition itemized what I think we need variances and/or special permits for. And the high-level viewpoint here is that when you look at the lots from Stewart Hospitals and the diocese, alone, those lots would not be conforming as to size. One lot would not be conforming as to frontage. But when you blend them all together, then I think we need to be talking about setbacks, use, lot coverage, and parking. The lot coverage, as you can see in the zoning table, we certainly exceed the allowable lot coverage with the building that's there currently. The property sits in an A2 district, and as a consequence, offices are not allowed by right. So we need relief for the use. And then the setbacks of the proposed deck structure, as well as, no, I'm sorry, strike that. Just the proposed deck structure require relief in terms of setback. I would submit to you that there's really not very much detriment to the neighborhood because the use is consistent with the uses made by, for instance, at the corner of Middle Street in South Main, the St. Anne's Credit Union corporate offices. This is what I would call regular hours, business hours, not high volume periods and low volume periods. Again, the proposal includes 66 spaces off-street. And I also want to note in my presentation that I believe Nina has a letter of support in the file from Tetralt Real Estate, which I emailed over, of the project and the development in this area of the city. Mr. Tetralt owns a property on Park Street, and so he was presented with this petition and was willing to give us a letter to support it. So I'm happy to take any questions from the board relative to the proposal before you, or the relief requested, or anything else that you may have of me.
G625, St. Anne's Church, how much of that lot is going to this particular project?
8,358
Yeah.
square feet.
So it's that trapezoidal piece.
May I approach?
Yes, you may.
All right. I'm not good at geography.
That's, I just wanted to confirm, that's what's coming from
This is
saying,
the Stewart.
that's gonna be the Stewart, that's gonna be
Well,
the
this is
parking.
Stewart, this is existing.
Yes. But that's gonna be the parking deck you're
That
going
is
to.
correct, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And this exists now as G629.
That is.
And they're going to get merged all together into one lot. Okay,
Yeah.
that's it. Thank you.
Very good.
You got it.
Gents, any questions?
All right, thank you. Is there anyone here in favor of this petition? Yes, sir.
It's the first time I faced a hearing.
Well, it's
Sure.
nice to
Would
see
you
you.
like
I'm
to
glad
sit
you
down?
came out.
No, thank
You
you.
good? Okay.
Tell us who you are.
Mr. Chairman, I have a general question, first of all.
Yes, sir.
For the attorney. I don't know if that's part of my 3 minutes. I'm allowed 3 minutes?
So you ask the question to me, and he'll hear, and then he'll answer.
Okay.
Because that way we'll avoid any direct.
It's very vague, but it's put down on paper here.
The fact that you took
And
the
it
time
says-
to do it's going to be good.
Yeah, it says here, it's going to be used for general medical
professional office space. That means a lot. It could be a doctor, could be a chiropractor, it could be drugs, it could be anything whatsoever that's included in here. And that's what I'd like to ask. What's going in here, first of all?
Okay?
I live just 2 houses down. I don't want anybody next door selling drugs.
A pharmacy?
I don't know.
No, I'm asking you, is your objection to it? So let's see what Attorney Salino has to say in response to that question.
In response to that question, I'm going to say as follows. The applicant is not the owner of the property. As submitted to this board, the applicant has a purchase and sale agreement to buy the property. It's conditioned upon the approval of this board. And as a result, we don't know what the ultimate use is going to be, because unless we get the relief needed, we're not going to buy the property.
The representation to the board. So that was his answer. He doesn't know what it's going to happen, but this is the general use, but it seems to be contingent on Stewart or St. Anne's Hospital usage to move their offices from the hospital proper to this new administrative building.
Right. To support the mission of the hospital, it's going to be professional and/or medical office, but we don't know that right now. So that's why it's written in the manner that it is.
But it's not Stewart or St. Anne's Hospital, it's this third-party First Bristol Corp. that's doing it, correct?
That's the developer. That is correct.
So, it's
I don't know
not,
why this is not put off until we have a definite answer. This is so vague. If you people vote on this, what's coming? We still don't know what's coming. It's a vague proposition here.
okay,
Now, besides that, as far as parking is concerned,
yes,
I don't know where they're gonna find the parking. All Main Street is all taken by the nurses and people who work at the hospital. The sanctuary, St. Anne's Sanctuary, where I worked for 30 years,
yes.
they can't even get in there anymore. There's no parking.
All right, so let's see what he says
Now,
about that, because...
Wait, I'm not done.
I wanted to do it piece by piece. I can't deal with compound questions.
I'm
Let's deal.
sorry. Okay.
Because if we do it piece by piece, then I can answer, or we can
Okay.
get you answers.
I'm not through with parking, though.
I'm not gonna let you stop. I'll let you speak.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Attorney Salino.
Parking, again, the proposal, sir, submits 66 off-street parking spaces with a parking deck that includes, in total, 39 spaces.
Did you
I don't
see
know
the
where you're gonna
plan?
put 'em.
Did you see? Look at the plan. If you want, you can look
Yeah,
at the plan.
that's why I offered you to sit down. This is the plan, this is the parking deck, it's 2 levels. As you can see on the engineering here, it says at grade 19 spaces, on deck 20 spaces.
Where is this gonna go?
Right there, right where you see it.
On the corner of Park and
Corner of
Forest
Park
Street.
and Forest.
Where?
The corner of Park and Forest.
Park and Forest.
Yeah, here's Forest, here's Park.
David, you might want to get his name and address.
Yeah. Oh,
You see the
sir,
link?
I'm sorry. I'm being reminded that...
You see the length of this room here, right?
Pardon me?
You see the
No,
length of this room?
First, before I let you leave, I need your name and address.
Norman Valakat, 20 Park Street.
Thank you. Now, it's all yours. Keep
Now, the
talking.
length of this room, even beyond that, you can triple it. Because next door to me, they're selling cars. We cannot park over there. That's the length. Otherwise, the police comes. Across the street, in front of the school, you can't park that either. So that the length, another length, no parking. Another place is where the nuns are, on the corner, where they live. You got a parking place over there, and they have their one space only. You can't park there either. That's all on between Forest and South Main now. Half it, there's no parking. Now, I don't know where.
So wait a minute, you gotta look at the plan, because what you're describing,
Mm-hmm.
and what this plan, and when I drove around today, my understanding is that there is this space available, and they're going to provide these parking spaces.
Correct.
Where are you gonna park?
Off
As it
street.
is now, my tenants have a hard time finding a parking place ahead of time.
I agree with that. I saw that today.
Mm-hmm.
But if they develop this land, as they're showing over here, there's a total of, I think, 62 parking.
66.
66 parking spaces that are being provided off-site, off-street.
66 parking places?
Please look at.
You'd have
please
to
look at-
have they already have a garage, which is filled on Osborne Street.
Mm-hmm.
They already have that. And now they
Chairman, if I
were
may.
thinking of building another
Wait a minute,
garage.
maybe the city engineer can give us some.
The parking ordinance, which governs the type of relief
Yes.
that you need to grant, the calculations backed into what can be provided here would allow for 60 employees and the appropriate number of customer spaces required by ordinance, with 66 spaces. So if they don't think they're going to exceed 60 employees, then no parking relief is required.
No, I got that. I'm not concerned about the parking relief, but I want to make sure Mr. Valaket understands he lives in the neighborhood. And what you and I are having a disconnect. When I look at the plan, I see the numbers, it's off-street, so they're not going to be taking up spaces on the street. They're creating parking for the employees that they're projecting will be working either at that building or, and the nexus, in the connection between this project and St. Anne's or Stewart isn't really made yet, but the representation is that's the plan. That Stewart is going to put administrative offices and maybe some medical offices in this building.
They'd have to knock down those 2 buildings in order to get space over there and then build several floors. That's the only place they're gonna have it. Because
Okay.
as it is, there's between parentheses, there's a misunderstanding with the owners and the tenants as it is. Very, very good. They don't even know who the people are. They haven't met them yet, nothing at all. See, this is all underneath.
Which owners, sir?
So the 2 buildings that he's got, a three-decker in the back, and I think I haven't been in.
No, wait a minute, time out. There's no 3 deckers. It is the old Dominican Academy building, or now I guess it's the Atlantis Charter School.
That's it.
With-
There's
That's
no
it.
multifamily.
There's no multifamily, it is
Is he talking about the charter school itself?
Yes. That's what this is all about. 37 Park Street, charter school.
That's across the street from my house, charter school.
yes.
Yeah, that's what this is about.
I thought I read in the paper just a few days ago that it was almost sold for a few million.
That's
And they
it.
were gonna put
Charter school on South Main Street.
kindergarten
Wait a
over
minute,
there.
No, that's South Main.
Mister, he's telling me, Dan
The charter
Aguirre,
school has been in multiple locations. The charter school has been in multiple locations.
Right,
The charter school that's been in the paper as of late is almost into Tiverton on South Main Street. I believe it's 2501 South Main Street.
That's
at
the one up
corner
on
of
Townsend
Summit
Hill.
and South Main. That's a different project than this one. This project is specifically to what you would have remembered as Dominican Academy, where my wife went to school, adjacent to St. Anne's Church. That's what we're looking at here. And they're building an additional parking lot in the front along South Main, and then in the back at the corner of Park and Forest, they will be building an at-grade parking lot, and then another
Deck.
parking deck above it, similar to what Primacare had built adjacent to their mill building.
all right, one more question.
Go
Are you
ahead.
people planning to buy the building and then build, and make a parking lot?
Yes, sir.
It's a sale?
wait, I'll answer the question. So, what they've proposed, what they've given this board is purchase and sales agreements that they have with the owners, that they are going to buy it and take title to the property. That is correct.
If that's the case, I agree.
Thank you.
I thought he was gonna do it on one of the apartment buildings.
No, sir.
No.
If it's a charter school, go ahead. Sooner or later, they were gonna get it. And they'll get the St. Anne's Church too, eventually.
Okay.
That's in the works.
Well, that was what I thought was happening when I saw that number, but the assessors map and lot, but the church is staying for now.
Yeah,
But thank you for coming out. We need your input.
thank you.
You live in the neighborhood.
I don't hear with this here, only with this one. I'm 91 years old.
That's good that
And I
you're
don't
here.
take drugs. I don't have any drugs, only eye drops. So I thank the good Lord for this.
Every day.
So we're looking forward to this, so I'm
Good.
glad it's gonna take place.
All right, sounds good.
Good evening.
The
Thank
best
you.
French professor of French teaching you'll ever find in the Fall River School Department for many years.
Good. Okay. So now that we got, is there anyone else in favor, even though I, okay. Attorney Ken Fiola.
Good evening. Excuse my voice. Can I grab my water for a second?
Yes.
Mr. Chair, are we supposed to be standing up in Fall River now? I'm the only guy that sat down tonight. He's standing up.
You look good to me.
All right, Mr. Calkins, thanks. I didn't know if we changed
It's your
the,
honor too, by the way.
Your Honor, yes, sir.
We're gonna get, we're gonna get a lecture for you.
So,
You'll have to stand and dance.
So for the record, my name is Ken Fiola. I'm the Executive Vice President of the Bristol County Economic Development Consultants, formerly the Fall River Office of Economic Development. And as many of you board members know, I periodically appear before the board either in favor or in opposition to projects that are close to or within the urban renewal areas that the redevelopment authority had developed over the last few years. In this particular case, this property lies just outside of the downtown urban renewal area, but a lot of the facets pertaining to this project also pertains to a lot of the properties located within the urban renewal area. So I'm here tonight to speak in favor of this project, primarily based upon a few different considerations. The first consideration is the fact that this property will have a much less of a detrimental impact on the neighborhood than what was currently there. As Attorney Salino has indicated, when the property was being utilized for the charter school, you had over 400 students that were attending there on a daily basis. None of those children were transported to the charter school by bus. They were all dropped off by their parents. And you had dozens of administrators and teachers that were also there and parking on the street. So the congestion and the turmoil around that area during the hours of operation for school was pretty intense. You know, I think anybody would agree as if you tried to drive through that area at that particular time. The second consideration is that right now this property is owned by a nonprofit and some of the other, participating parties within the sale, namely the diocese. Neither one of those entities pay taxes. To the extent that relief is granted for this petition, this property will actually become on the tax roll, and taxes will be generated as a result of the property being converted from its current use to a new use, which is primarily office. Thirdly, I'd also like to be on the record is that this property is currently zoned A2, right? So we all know, I think the board knows certainly, and maybe some of the people in the audience here, A2 is multifamily. So if there was a developer that came forward and presented a petition, or they wouldn't even have to present a petition, but a developer could come forward, pull out a building permit and convert that to residential use without even having to come before the board for relief. So you could have many more parking spaces on the street than as opposed on site. And you would have a different type of use there that's currently there, and there's no guarantee that there would be market rate housing, low-income housing, or any other type of housing, but it's zoned for that particular use in housing. And it's also could, as recently evidenced by the charter school is there as being an educational facility which is zoning exempt. You could have another nonprofit entity coming in, which is zoning exempt, and have the right to occupy that property, and that may not necessarily be an educational use. It could be another use, which could, in some people's opinion, or maybe other people don't share the opinion, but could have a more detrimental impact on the neighborhood. So I think, when we look at this project, you look at the preservation of the building itself, when you look at the fact that the proposed owners are taking the necessary steps to incorporate parking on site to relieve some of the parking congestion that's there, the fact that these administrative offices are going to be moved from the campus of Stewart over to this area and allow the campus to grow a little bit more for different types of procedures, I think this fits within the confines of logical growth. And when you also add in the fact that Stewart, it used to be owned by St. Anne's, as we all know, and it didn't pay any taxes. Stewart is a private hospital, which is probably amongst the highest taxpayer in the city now, as well as one of its biggest employers. I don't think, and I didn't grow up far from this area, but I grew up in a neighborhood a couple blocks away. My sister went to DA, my family went to the Dominican Academy, so I'm very familiar with that location. And if I thought this was going to have a detrimental impact, I wouldn't be before you today. I think this is a good, sound plan for the reuse of this property in accordance with the type of economic growth that the city is trying to accomplish via growth in the healthcare industry without having a negative impact upon surrounding properties. Granted, change is always, problematic, and people get afraid by change, but we certainly don't have 400 students here. Okay, it's gonna have much less impact than it previously had. So for those reasons, you know, I'm hoping that the board would consider approval of the petition that's before them tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in favor? Anyone yes, sir.
So, James Harrington, 48 Clark Street, which is directly across the street. I'm the only single-family home on the street. I'm in favor of this. The building is deteriorating because there's no upkeep. Especially the roof portion. Every time there's a windstorm, it seems like there are shingles on the street. So I believe that this would be a benefit to the neighborhood, to the city of Fall River, for several of the reasons that have been pointed out. I have off-street parking. I understand Mr. Valiquette's concern. You know, I know there are other people here who have to have off-street parking, so, you know, I just hope that that's kept in consideration as the plans move forward. But overall, I think this would be an excellent addition to the neighborhood.
Thank you, Mr. Harrington.
Thank you.
Anyone else in favor of this petition? Anyone opposed to this petition? Yeah, so we'll start. Madam, I'm going to let you speak last. I'm going to start with the gentleman behind you, and then you're going to be the last one to speak in opposition. Identify yourself, please, sir.
Hi, Board. I'm Louis Levesque. We all live at 34
Can I have an address, Mr. Levesque?
Sure, 34 Park Street.
Okay.
My concern is, me coming home like 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon for work, and there's no parking. So, right now as it is, there ain't much parking come 2 o'clock in the afternoon because everybody from St. Anne's park there, and so I wait outside for like a half hour, 45 minutes just to get a parking space. So would this be more difficult or
So,
not as difficult?
if you heard Attorney Salino's presentation, there are 66 off-street parking spaces that are being proposed for this project.
Okay.
So they are creating off-street parking to alleviate the on-street parking issue that existed with the Atlantis Charter School, and I'm trying to think whatever activity was there, but I guess Atlantis was probably taking up the most amount.
They were the
And
occupant.
if there were people from St. Anne's or from Stewart that have been parking on the street, they've now created 66 off-street parking spaces.
Correct.
To take care of what's going for the renovation and the repurposing of that building at Atlantis Charter School.
Okay.
So it's not like it's not like they're proposing to do this development without off-street parking. They are proposing to create off-street parking. At least,
May I
please,
just,
go ahead.
in response, the parking situation is clearly important to the neighbors here, but it's not illusory. As the city engineer pointed out, all the parking spaces are measured. The city engineer requires that the aisle widths be measured and placed on the plan. So all of that is done. This is not made-up parking that we might be able to get. This is all parking as per the bylaw in terms of the size of the spaces, the aisle widths, the curb cuts. Everything is documented appropriately.
The plans are stamped by a Commonwealth of Massachusetts professional land surveyor. And the reason why we have that stamped on it is that the board can rely on the dimensions and the calculations that are given to us. So I'm just making sure that Mr. Levesque knows that. So the plans, as far as Attorney Salino making the representation, these are actual. The board is relying on what Mr. Richard J. Hood has stamped on these plans as saying there's 66 off-street parking spaces that meets or exceeds the requirements of the city. So this project, whatever they're doing, has 66 off-street parking spaces that currently do not exist. They are now going to exist when this project happens. If you're having difficulty parking after this is done, I'm going to give you Attorney Salino's number at the office. You can call him.
Cool, I will do that. Thank you, Board. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir?
My wife.
Wife?
What,
can I
accompany?
Of course you can. but I need you to identify yourself,
Hi,
please.
thank you so much. Mr. and Mrs. Jeff Parham. We live at 34 Park Street, first floor.
Can you spell your last name for me?
P-E-R-H-A-M.
P-E-R-H-A-M, thank you.
Okay. Excuse me. We've lived there for, what, about 6 years now?
I've lived there 10.
Okay.
Do not own.
Yeah, we rent.
I'm sorry, we just didn't get the first names. I got
Natalie.
Natalie.
Jeffrey.
Natalie and Jeffrey, thank you.
66 spots are not enough,
We don't believe so.
and I'll tell you why.
Okay? We'll
So
listen.
that's gonna tell me that there's 66 employees that are coming over from Stewart to occupy that. Am I correct?
I don't know the
That-
answer to
that's-
that.
that's my-
The calculation based on what's being proposed yields, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dan, the calculation gets, this project gives you, they have to have 66 to make this project work.
Okay, well, if the 66.
So you have an ordinance in the city
Mm-hmm.
that says this project, how many parking spaces do you need based on what that project is, what they're showing, the model, the mathematics say you need 66 spaces, they've got 66 spaces.
Okay, well, that's not enough.
So, I got it, so you tell us why.
Because right now, we have an overflow of St. Anne's Hospital that unfortunately we can't control. It's public parking, I get it. I had asked numerous times for someone to come and maybe put the lines like we have on Middle Street where they have the line? Okay.
I was there today.
Well, that was denied that. Okay, nobody even called me back. We thought maybe at least if people had direction on where to park their car, maybe we could fit a couple more people in. Well, we were told no. And then,
So when you tell me you were told no, and I'm not looking to stir the crock up.
from
with
the
any-
police,
Oh,
the
from the
police
police.
department, yeah,
Police department?
yeah. Even when it comes times, I mean, it's bad.
No, I'm just trying to think of what
it's from the
department you were
police.
speaking
No,
to.
it was from the police department, because at least I was looking for direction. Somebody that, who can I call? Can somebody help us? As residents, because it's pretty bad.
It's a struggle.
It's a struggle. Every day it's a struggle. And unfortunately.
Can I stop you for 1
Yep.
second? I just want to ask a question.
Yep.
Would it be traffic department, Laura's?
Traffic
Yeah,
department.
okay. So before you leave, we'll give you the name of the department that
Okay.
maybe you should call, but please
Okay.
continue. Even though this is the zoning board of appeals.
No, I know, and thank you. Maybe I'm venting a little
No,
bit,
it's
but
okay.
that's okay.
Listen, madam, you tell us, you live in the neighborhood we need to hear.
If there were ample parking, okay, then it would be a good thing, because the building it's, you know what I call it? The world's
I don't.
largest birdhouse.
It's in poor shape.
It's so bad that I honestly, if I had had a child in that school, and my child had developed upper respiratory issues, it would be because of that school. We sit on that parking, we sit on our porch, and we have a beautiful porch, and we watch.
Pigeons.
And pigeons, and pigeons, and pigeons. The windstorms, we have slates. Part of that roof is slate. They slide right off. It's amazing that nobody's car is, damaged. So if there was ample parking, enough that we were comfortable when we came home, yeah, it's a great idea. But I don't think 66 is enough. There's gonna be severe overflow, and it's gonna be an issue, again.
Never mind winter storms, which is another thing that's coming up, sir, the feast. If we move our car, we will never get enough
That's a
parking space
disaster
during
over
the
there.
feast. It's not like Middle, it's not residential. I believe Middle is residential. I'm not positive on that, but my wife said the lines would help, because then if you have lines, you have direction. There's
Okay.
there's not enough. We don't think that 66 will be sufficient.
Yeah.
I
And how
understand.
about-
We have an ordinance.
Yes,
We
sir.
have a model. The calculation says 66 is the number. You're articulating that you think there's more. Attorney Solino is hearing that. The people that are in, I don't know, whoever's listening to this particular project may be listening to it. But in terms of the model, they meet that part of the model that says this is how many parking spaces you need. In terms of the rehab of the building, listening to what you've said and what Mr. Harrington said, it sounds like the development or the redevelopment or repurposing of this has to be good for the neighborhood. versus.
agree with that.
Absolutely.
It has
I
to-
think
it
we
has
all,
to
I
be
think
good.
for the
So-
building itself, yeah.
I agree with that.
So when you do the weighing, maybe you need more parking spaces, I don't know, but mathematically, when we apply what we're given in the ordinance and say, this is your proposal, this is how many you need, you meet it, that's,
I
it
understand.
really, that's a check mark in terms of, okay, we've got the parking taken care of. The issue about the rehab of the building,
Yep.
it sounds like they're gonna spend a few dollars to get it fixed up and done. So I suspect some of the issue with the slate roofs, or whatever it is, slate or otherwise, and the pigeons are probably gonna be corrected. And you've got this another the parking on the corner of Park and Forest Street, a two-tier parking garage that it can't do anything but assist in the parking.
No, I don't
Okay.
agree with that.
Well,
I do not agree with that.
If
Do not.
If it could work, that an empty building full of pigeons is not what we're looking for.
The building
Agreed.
itself, I agree with. Something needs to be done. It's very sad,
We just
okay?
wanted to stress
But
our concern.
how it's gonna be done and
So,
and
you
the
got a
concern
pencil
of the
and paper.
residents.
508-324-2000.
Yeah, I get it.
That's the main number of City Hall.
Yep.
You want to call the traffic department about the striping and see if something can happen there. But the police department, I don't think have that authority. I think that's the traffic department. But we've listened to
So
your
as long
concern.
as he's met everything and it gets approved, doesn't matter what a resident has to say.
Madam, I've just let you speak.
Yeah.
You've listened,
I
we've got
know.
it on record what
I
you're
got it.
talking about. This board has very limited authority.
Understood.
There's an ordinance, he needs some relief, this is what they're asking to do. Some days I wish I had more, this board had more authority, but it's very limited in what we can do. You have city councilors you can talk to, you have the mayor of the city of Fall River you can talk to, Mr. Aguirre's the city engineer, but this proposal that's before the board this evening is, here's this project, this is what we want to do, and we're providing ample, one component of it is parking, and they meet the parking component that our ordinance requires them to meet.
They will
They're not
need to be
looking for a
careful.
variance of it.
They will need to be careful when they start it, because there are falcons that nest.
If you listen to what I said at the beginning of the meeting, there
Yeah.
are other departments that need to be coordinated before this project starts.
Okay.
This is strictly, can you do this project, yes or no?
Chairman, if I could
Yeah,
add.
go ahead, Dan.
Additionally, along Park Street,
Yeah.
there will be two existing curb openings that will be closed. And that
Creating
will also
more parking
provide some
spaces.
additional parking spaces on Park Street itself. And then with regards to the falcon issue and the pigeons, through the building permit process, there is a bait program for rodents, birds, everything through the building that needs to take place prior to any work being done on the building. So there are other procedures beyond this narrow scope of zoning to ensure that those types of items take place.
And just one last question, and
Go ahead.
maybe I'm showing my age, but I remember when that first became a school, and I was always told that the nuns had given it, and they had said that that should always be a school. Is that not right?
Can't answer that.
You can't answer that?
I can't answer that question, I didn't do the title. The simple answer is Atlantis Charter School, I believe, or whatever it is.
I'll just-
Has title to it, and.
I'll speak to the
Go ahead,
title,
please,
if you
go
want me
ahead,
to. I was a board member of Atlantis Charter School, so the owner is Atlantis Educational Foundation, which is separate and apart from the educational institution, privately fundraises, et cetera. So they have the ability to buy, sell, transact business.
Okay,
So there's no deed restriction that has to be a school.
okay. I
That's
guess
the
it was
answer to
just one of
that.
those old wives' tales. All right, well, thanks for your time.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for
Thank
hearing
you,
our
thank you
concerns.
for coming up. Thank you. Is there anyone else opposed to this particular project? Okay, hearing none, members of the board, you heard the presentation, any more questions for Attorney Salino? Okay, motion, so, I guess what we have before us, and I think it's variance and a special permit. The variance, Peter, I think you've got outlined, and the special permit was for the, remind me again what the special permit was for.
Well, I checked both boxes to be a comprehensive
You said special permit for parking,
council.
but we've got
Yeah,
that, but if we
right.
did, but if we granted the variance on all the items that
I don't
you-
think we need a
then you
special
don't need the special permit. Okay.
Just being a zealous advocate for my
I
client.
understand that, but it's, when I start thinking of all the things I just thought about, I just couldn't come up with what you needed a special permit for. Variance seemed to do a better job of taking care of everything. Okay, members of the board, has Attorney Salino in this presentation met the requirements of 40A Section 10 for a variance for lot size, frontage, parking, use as a general medical and professional office space, for the variance for the setbacks, for the parking garage, variance for lot coverage. If we think he's met it, and this is the purpose of this, the purposing of this particular project, then we should make a motion to grant. If we don't think it's done it, then we should motion to deny and not have any.
On it.
Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
I
I'll make a
found this
motion
on
to
the
grant.
web.
Made a motion.
Sorry about that.
All right, Dan Dupere,
I'll make a motion to grant.
motion to grant. What do we need to make a condition? Condition that it all gets merged into one lot when it's done.
Yes.
Okay, so that's Dan Dupere's motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, John Frank. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Dan Dupere.
Yes.
Joe Pereira.
Yes.
Jim Corkins.
Yes.
John Frank.
Yes.
Chairman Assad, yes. So that variance is granted. So that project can go forward.
Thank you, Your
And
Honor.
this will automatically go to site plan anyway.
It absolutely has to go. There's no, Dan, is that, there's no, I don't. Yeah. So that takes care of that. Agenda item number 5, the Procasanti Group LLC, care of Attorney Thomas P. Killoran, 323 William S. Canning Boulevard, map C6, lot 33. The applicant seeks a variant special permit to allow the sale of alcoholic beverages at the proposed gasoline filling station and convenience store. This property is located in the BL zoning district.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, Attorney Thomas Killoran, I represent the applicant Procashanti Group LLC. As stated, the property before you is at 323 William S. Canning Boulevard, the former site of the Family Foods grocery outlet, which has been closed now for, I believe, at least a couple of years at this point. We were before this board on June 9th, so just a couple of months ago. At that point, the board did grant a special permit to waive some parking requirements in terms of the location of where the parking spaces would be located, as well as grant a special permit to allow for the gasoline filling station component. Since we last appeared before you, one of the aspects of this proposed development is that they intended to have beer and wine sales at the property. In my conversations with Carrie A. Ash over at the licensing board, she did tell me that it was her opinion that a special permit or use variance may be needed because we are located in the BL district. She subsequently spoke with the building inspector, and he was of the opinion that relief from this board would be needed.
That was my question, because I couldn't understand why you were before the board. Because I think in the BL district, 5,000 square feet, generally, what are you doing before the board asking for relief?
Right.
But if that's what Mr. Hathaway, the building inspector of the city of Fall River said, come before the board and get the relief so you get everything you need.
That is what Mr. Hathaway said. My initial interpretation was obviously different than Mr. Hathaway's, so nevertheless, we are back before this board asking for that relief, which I believe would be a use variance to allow for the sale of malt beverages and wine. It's not the intention to have
beer and wine license,
yeah, it's not the intention to have all alcohol sales.
Okay. Members of the board, any questions? Anyone here in favor? Anyone here opposed? Okay. Motion, Dan, it's kind of straightforward stuff.
I mean, I think the board can move in the direction of a special permit. When we look at the code in the table of uses, it's fairly vague, but I'm pretty sure this is what the building inspector is speaking to, that a bar, saloon, or other establishment where alcoholic beverages are sold and consumed.
And, well, that was my issue
So,
when dealing,
that's really the
reading
only
with that.
place that this would be called out.
That's
So
right.
I would ask, one, to ensure that consumption is not to take place,
No, it's a
Consumption, right, consumption would not be taking place on site.
and that
on premises sale.
and that
no
I believe at
consumption.
worst case scenario, a special permit. And then What's odd is that section again, it says, but which is not licensed to prepare or serve food.
Yeah, so it's
I
not a
think-
restaurant.
No, but you do have the ability.
Yeah, they have.
There is food
to
service.
prepare
No,
the
no,
food
but
service,
it's
so
not, when you read that part.
This is about as close as you can get to saying where you need relief.
Right.
So to be covered, I think you're moving appropriately.
No, I think I think you're correct. I think maybe Glenn is correct. Get it so you're covered, so
Right.
the license is covered and the project goes forward. But I was having difficulty trying to get my head around why you were before the board, why you needed it, because in the BL district with the retail sales, and you weren't consuming and drinking alcohol on the premises. But- So, okay, so that's where we are.
But certainly, if Mr. Aguirre thinks it's a special permit, then we did check both boxes. The denial letter said special permit / variance, so I wasn't 100% certain on that. I thought maybe it would be in the nature of a use variance, but if it's a special permit, obviously that's fine as well, if that's what the board feels.
I'm of,
I don't know, look.
I'm of the opinion, I'd rather if I was, I'm not gonna tell you how to practice. I prefer a variance than a special permit.
That's the way I interpret it, but who am I to quarrel with Mr. Aguirre?
I only have concerns with regards to an appeal, that the grounds for variance may not be met, and that on an appeal you may lose, whereas a special permit, it's really.
Certainly, there's a
I
different
got that.
standard. I
You can
agree
grant
with that.
both, if you'd
No,
like.
no, I got it, but there's no reason to grant both. I mean, if we grant the special permit, then it's a special permit. If there's a change of circumstances, they can come back before the board. So, and the standard for the special permit on that would just be a finding that it's not more detrimental to the neighborhood than what's currently being used, so.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we find or grant a special permit as the proposal is not substantially more detrimental to the area.
To the neighborhood than what's there, yeah, okay.
And the
So that's Jim
current use.
Corkins' motion to grant. Was that a second? I heard you from John Frank. John Frank, second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Dan Dupere?
Yes.
Joe Pereira?
Yes.
John Frank?
Yes.
Jim Corkins?
Yes.
Chairman Assad, yes.
Great.
Okay, special permit was
Special
granted.
permit.
And wait a minute, the special permit would be a grant for 2 years.
Correct.
No, I'm
No
just,
consumption in 2 years.
huh?
No consumption of alcohol in 2 years.
That's a licensing board issue, but they can sell. The petition was to allow the sale of alcoholic beverages. That's subject to the ABCC, but I'm saying the special permit, so he's not coming back in 1 year and saying, oh, I need, probably it's gonna go forward right away, but give him the 2 years so he doesn't come back.
Thank you. They're anxious to get moving.
No, I'm sure they are, but I don't know what's gonna happen, so.
True. Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Is that it for you, Attorney Coloran?
That's it for me, thank you.
Sorry it took you so long.
No, that's good. So, let's see, Anchorman, Carter Capital LLC, care of Attorney Peter A. Solino, 75 Fifth Street, map N20, lot 55. The applicant seeks a variance / special permit to convert the existing structure into 27 residential apartments. The applicant requests a variance for front yard setback, side yard setback, and rear yard setback. The applicant also seeks a variance and/or special permit for parking. This property is located in a CBD zoning district. Attorney Salino.
Good evening. For record purposes, Peter Solino, 550 Locust Street here in Fall River. I represent the applicant, Carter Capital LLC. With me is Scott Adams. Scott, can you
Scott,
introduce
how are you?
yourself?
Scott Adams with the Advanced Engineering Group.
So Scott and I have tag teamed this project. This is located at 75 Fifth Street in Fall River. The assessors call it N20-55. It's in a CBD district. It's currently a dilapidated warehouse-style building, really close to the street. The proposal before the board this evening is to convert the existing structure to 27 residential apartments. The variances that I see and I have requested are front setback, side setback, rear setback, and a special permit for parking. I note for the record that there is no lot coverage requirement in a CBD district, so I didn't mention that or talk about that. And I also didn't ask for a use variance because in a CBD, 20 or more units are allowed by right. So I think what we're talking about is setbacks and parking this evening. To me, as in a lot of these cases, if you're trying to use the building that's there, the hardship is definitely the location of the building itself. pre-existing non-conforming structure right along the sidewalk. If I have to make a shape argument for Mr. Chairman's benefit, I would suggest to you that it's a long and narrow sort of lot with the building encroaching almost on the property line. I don't really think there's any detriment to the surrounding neighborhood in this circumstance. Here we have a vacant building that sits near the bus station. We have a mission here in the city to create a more walkable downtown with livable space and millennials and young professionals that take public transportation. And I think this proposal is in harmony with that mission. So I'm happy to go over anything in the petition that the board would like to hear, and I'd like you to hear a little bit from Mr. Adams relative to the proposal and more of the construction side and parking layout, et cetera.
Scott?
Thank you. So as the board is probably aware, the majority of the existing parking is to the rear of the building. A lot of these lots were combined at one point when they were previously subdivided. There's a chain link fence that separates this lot from an adjacent what is now basically an empty parking lot that is owned by another party. The fence line is actually...
2034, that's not, as I was there and walking it today, that's not part of this proposal.
That's not part of this, correct. That's not part of this. Although that may come up at a future conversation with regards to possibly...
No, but at first I was, then I had the plans out and...
When you're on site, it looks like it's one and the same, but it's not. So part of this application, obviously, we did a boundary survey of the site to determine where the properties lie. They actually, our client initially thought the chain link fence was the property line. It turns out that it's slightly inboard from that. So the access to the rear starts off at 22, it next down close to about 21, then widens out. The entire property is basically is impervious currently. There's really no landscaping mention of. As part of this project, we're going to add about basically a landscape strip to the 5 feet to the rear and a little bit to the side around the parking area to reduce it to about 6% or so will be now landscaped area on the parcel. There's 8 spaces and 1 handicap space that's proposed on this. There's a proposed addition and a spot allocated for a proposed elevator for these units that are being proposed. We have concept level drawings that were provided for the floor layouts from the architect. That's what we based our design on for parking. And we kind of scratched our head because we know it didn't meet the requirements, right, for parking. So what's the best thing we can come up with? This parcel is also as in a AOG district, I believe, AOD, apologize, which allows for the use of off-site parking. So we kind of came up with different options out of the box. One of the options is to utilize the basement of this property to maximize the on-site parking that we can do. It's probably going to be very expensive to do so. We cannot get conventional cars, so we did do a layout for compact cars, which would be 16 feet by 9 foot spaces. And we can get an additional 11 spaces in the basement of this facility, and that would allow for some storage, some no parking areas around the stairwells and the elevator shaft. So the maximum number of spaces we can physically fit on site is 20. But then there are, with respect to the off-site uses, which are allowed in the bylaw under the overlay district, there are numerous lots adjacent to this within a couple block walking distance. One of them is directly adjacent to this. So our clients intend to, should this get approved, will then proceed with approaching local parking facilities to hopefully get into a contract and a long-term lease for whatever parking spaces are required above and beyond what can be provided on site. So with either the use of the basement area and/or off-site parking per a contract or a long-term lease for the required parking for the number of units that are allowed by the board. We fully understand that we will have to go spend some additional time with the site plan review committee to do a full site plan review for this. That drainage and things like that will also be taken into consideration.
No, that was my big concern as I was over there, the 54 spaces that I think you need as a matter of right, plus I think you need a couple of more for a loading dock, I think +1, and for if there's gonna be anybody on the site, employees, but I don't know whether there's gonna be any employees on site.
No employees, and the majority of what is being proposed are currently proposed as single bed units. So they were hoping, and the application was hoping that we could get approved for a 1-for-1 space if the board would entertain that, given the fact of its close proximity to public transportation directly adjacent to this is the bus station.
Yeah, I know, I almost got run over by the buses today as I was out there.
There's that phrase about getting hit by a bus.
But literally, David Assad walking on the streets over there today, that baby came right out and I went, whoa.
As long as it's not 2 a.m. here also.
My wife was, she was already calling up Catherine to get the insurance money.
So ultimately, the goal, from speaking with our clients, the goal of the applicant is to obtain a variance approval to get a one-for-one, one unit for one space, and then with hopefully the condition that we either finish the basement for parking and/or secure the additional required spaces from an off-site contract, as allowed by the bylaw.
The other thing that I noticed is up and down, I'm trying to think what it is, Spring Street, Brow Street, I'm doing this from memory, I should look at the plan. But there was lots of no parking this side of the street, no parking here, no parking there. And then just on the next corners, it seemed extremely dense in population. There were cars, I mean, it was wall-to-wall cars and, yeah. So,
I believe the Fifth Street and Fourth Street limitations are probably due to the turning movements of the buses, so they can take larger swings to be able to get into that area.
no, but it was south, it was heading south.
Liberty Utilities is.
Yeah, Liberty
their
Utilities
driveway
was
is
over there, they
one.
had a bunch of.
There's a commercial
And I thought they
driveway
had
across the
moved
street
out,
on
but I
it.
They
guess
have,
they
yeah. I believe
there was
it's
lots of
looking-
activity there today.
Yeah.
I
They
can,
had the
I can,
doors open and
I can speak to that. Liberty is a tenant in the building. They sold the building. They're a tenant in the building for a defined period of time.
Okay. No, I'm just physically out there this afternoon, just taking a look at it, and I was trying to think of what it'd be like with 27 units, 27 people, cars. Congestion was just like overwhelming.
The intention would be
But
to
you can't.
secure the off-site contracts for parking. There, if you look at the other portfolio, there are.
But you don't have anything right now.
We do not. This was the kind of the first step, and then there's so many opportunities, I guess, for contracting people, they feel confident. There's obviously two citywide parking on 3rd Street, basically 2 blocks away. You have an outdoor one, then you have the 3rd Street garage. Understand they can only have, I think, 1 month limitations or something like that on parking, but I don't
There
believe
was
there's any.
there was a project for the old police station.
Yep.
And listening to what that gentleman went through trying to secure those off-site spaces and inability to get them, whether or not it was him, his lawyer, or whatever, but it was an uphill battle. And I realize that our ordinance provides for that. I'm not saying it doesn't, but they at least had a study that said this is how many parking spaces are available within 300 feet. They had the concentric circles. And I don't think you can rely, at least I don't think the board can rely on, yeah, we're gonna use the, whatever garage it is, if that, I mean, I'm looking over there to Mr. Fiola, if that's gonna get, if he knows whether or not that's gonna get rehabbed, that may be a very viable, parking alternative. But don't let me talk too much about it there.
No, I was just gonna ask, I mean, couldn't the board impose that as a condition?
I was gonna ask the same
Yeah,
thing.
the board, yeah, they can, the board, we have lots of authority.
Yeah.
On
Mr. Chairman,
certain
if I may,
issues. Yeah,
do you
Dan.
know bedroom count per unit? I mean, are they ones,
He
twos,
said,
threes?
I thought he said
It's
one.
only,
All ones?
yeah, it is a blend. The majority of them are single bedrooms. Let's see.
I think the board may want to condition a unit count that they're comfortable with. If they wanna-
No, but I thought that's what he said, it was gonna be one bedroom.
And I think they're.
There were, it's probably easier to count 2 bedrooms than 1 bedrooms, because I think the majority of them are, so this is top 40, right? So,
Well, Mr. Adams is counting, the board has the ability to act under 2 sections of zoning. One through the special permit grant of a reduction in parking, utilizing on-street parking. You also have the ability with the Arts Overlay District to require secured off-site parking, not street parking. So whatever number of units the board feels
Well, that's
comfortable
why
with.
I was asking that
And a
question.
number of secured spaces, whether it's 1-to-1 or 1.5-to-1, could be a conditional approval that no building permit be issued until those spaces have been secured for a certain period of time that the board can determine. So you do have the ability to condition this with whatever you're comfortable with.
Yeah, under 86-440-445.
You can waive everything.
The board, waives that the reduction or modification is not inconsistent, we can do that, that's correct. But we can make the condition that they have it in place as a condition of the grant.
Correct.
If we think that 27
At whatever
units-
ratio you're
yeah.
comfortable with.
But that 1-to-1 ratio, and I'm kind of, this doesn't really matter what I say. It's not precedent setting, the fact that we have used 1-to-1 on some of the projects. It doesn't mean that the ordinance is still the ordinance, and that's really what we're supposed to be going with. And there has to be some showing of why we should change that. But That's just me.
Because we want to develop
I
dilapidated
got it.
structure.
Yes, I
One
understand.
note to that, Mr. Chairman, is that, so the past practice of meeting that requirement of one-to-one, although not precedent-setting in one direction, it is also not precedent-setting in the opposite direction of not meeting the one-to-one. Although it's been a general standard, there's no guarantee that that standard is satisfactory, and there's also no precedent that that standard is not beyond what may be required. So you do have the flexibility to.
Yeah, no, the board has a lot, but I'm just
Or-
saying, the fact that we've used it before.
Sure.
And said one-to-one and less than, and I know that Attorney Salino knows that, I'm just thinking out loud about, once you open your mouth and say, yeah, let's do one-to-one on this project, let's do one-to-one on all of them, and it's,
Zoning should be changed.
zoning should be changed, something should happen.
I'm just
Go
looking
ahead.
at the total number of units that we granted.
No, I know that, that's what I'm
variance in the
saying.
last few meetings.
Any exterior changes to the building?
Yes, as part of the proposal, they were actually intending to add on another floor to the building. So,
Another floor.
Oh, there we go.
yes. So there was an additional floor that was proposed to be added, which that floor is gonna be kind of inset.
Was that in
from-
our package?
No, we don't have any of that, that's why I was asking.
No, those are architectural.
These were just kind of concept renderings that
concept.
I was provided. So basically, there would be an outdoor balcony along Fifth Street, and I'm not sure what that dimension would be. It's about 10 feet wide of an outdoor balcony, and then this wall would be set back, and there'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units that would be up top. Those would be primarily where the two-bedroom units are, would be on the top floor. And then there would be 9 two-bedroom units. That's what the concept plans show. He didn't necessarily tell me that they were set in stone, so I'm kind of like,
So if you
Wary
put
to
the
say
third
that's-
floor on, then you get enough parking spaces for one-to-one.
No, they don't.
How tall is the
Oh,
building?
one-to-one, one-to-one.
yeah,
well, you
we
just
have
don't
on the
know
plan.
what
The
we're
average building height
That's
for,
the whole point.
using the mean average is listed on the plan, so the existing would be 29.5, and the provided would be 43.5.
Okay.
And they actually did provide a rendering, just as the board, is interested in seeing it, but this is a rendering for what they were proposing, that it would, what it would look like.
Yeah.
How the
Oh,
top
up
floor
on
would
top,
be
I
set
see,
back,
yes.
so they'd have the
Yes.
balcony for the two-bedroom units would be, majority of the two-bedroom units are on the top floor, and majority of everything on the subsequent floors below are the singles. I think like in the corner, there were like two-bedroom units on the corners. For a total of 9 two-bedroom units.
18 singles.
Okay.
It's a pretty picture, it's not exact, but that's what their vision is currently.
Okay.
It doesn't talk anything about that in the application.
No, I know that. That's,
So I don't,
I mean, they can't, so,
planner
let's
brought
talk,
up
let's
a
talk
good
about
point.
where it is. In the CBD district, they can, as a matter of right, 20 plus whatever. So they can put floors, the issue becomes the parking, really it centers on the parking, the congestion in the area.
Could I just
Yeah, Peter,
address,
you-
it's
Attorney
not in the
Salino, yes,
application
you can.
because height-wise, even with that, we're below the requirement.
We can go to 45.
But you would be technically be
Well,
extending an
before
existing
commercial
non-conforming structure.
Yes.
It's an addition,
That
it's
may
just another
need
floor.
its own special permit.
Yeah.
And you may be able to wrap it all in, but again, it wasn't advertised that way either, so. You can ask the.
No, I'm leaving it what was presented to the board. I mean, the fact that they're talking about this, but just in terms of just what they have with the 27 proposed units, and what our ordinance gets, we just went through the parking model for St. Anne's, that project over there. I mean, this is,
Mr.
Yeah,
Chairman,
go ahead.
I would suggest, and if the petitioner agrees, that we give him leave to withdraw till a further meeting to clarify, or to correct the advertising and to see if any further information can be developed on the parking.
I don't know whether Attorney Salino wants to do that.
Well, I know.
No,
Yes.
about the upper, I understand whether or not they want leave to do it, but if that's something he wants to do, I mean, it's.
I mean, you can argue that the fact that, that it does fall within the building limits. And if they're comfortable with getting a vote that may cover that, then just take the vote on it.
It gets a little gray too, with the fact that the additional portion of the building is gonna be set back from the right-of-way 10 feet. It actually might meet, for the additional part, might meet the
What did the
setback.
building inspector, he didn't deal with that, or he didn't know that there was a third floor going on?
Honestly, Dan, I don't remember if they were or not. But it's already mid-July, we're talking about.
The side yard is 10 and the front yard's 12, so it's, yeah, like I said, they were leaving, part of the roof line was gonna stay, and the additional portion was gonna be set back from the street by 10 feet, according to the plans.
I mean, setbacks for a building that was constructed over 100 years ago is, I guess, you know, if it doesn't meet the setback, you tear it down. And, you know, that's not,
Yeah, no, that's correct, for the existing building. The biggest pivotal issue, at least for me,
I mean-
is the parking issue.
Yeah, and the board can move with how the petition was presented. If at some point the building inspector feels that they have not been granted relief with regards to that floor, then maybe you have to come back at another time just to deal with the third floor. But at least you can get the parking part of it resolved now. And he may feel, again, he's the zoning enforcement officer. I am not, David is not, you're not. So if he feels that the vote taken covers you for that construction activity, you're gonna submit a set of building plans.
Right.
It's up for him to determine whether or not the relief that you obtain covers you for that. So the board is aware of it, and they can act on the petition as presented.
and again, plans as presented indicate the
Incorporate.
45 that's allowed and
That's
the
it.
43.5. It's clear on the plans, it's
If-
clear on what was presented.
If the architectural
We typically
plans
don't
are
see
made part of
an
the record,
architectural plan.
which they should be, because technically, we don't have a plan, I don't believe, that shows the third floor, so you may want to submit
Well,
what you presented.
the table of the table that was provided stated what the existing building height is and what the proposed height is.
Exactly.
It might not have been an elevation drawing on the plan, but the relief was granted in the table for what was proposed and what was existing.
Okay. So,
May I ask a question?
yes?
When you're talking about parking studies earlier, is that something that the board is concerned about?
I'm concerned about so I can't speak for the board, I can only speak for myself on that issue.
Right.
The vanilla 101 is, I have a piece of land, I have a building on it, the requirements require 54 parking spaces, I don't have it.
Yep.
Then we go to the next level and say, I'm gonna provide parking spaces at some other location. You don't have it, it's not before the board.
Yep.
That causes me concern. The project that I'm thinking of where they were proactive and came in and said, here's the location, here's 100 feet, 200 feet, 300 feet, how many off-street parking spaces there are, and we're securing, and I guess it wasn't the police station, it was I think it was.
There was another.
That was down there.
Jiffy
We're
Tech.
securing.
Jiffy Tech.
Was that what it was? We're securing.
The combination
We've
of
got
the parking
We've got
garage
a
on
combination
street,
of
yeah.
this and this and this, and we had it secured, and they came before the board with it and said, we've got guaranteed this many spaces to take care of it, because that was also in the arts overlay district, as I remember, yeah. That's just David Assad speaking, that's the board's attorney, trying to see how, make it work, or do I have a problem? And right now, I don't know where I'm going.
Then we ran into the situation with the police station, where they tried.
But police station, I think, is just like, it's not a good model. That was just
No, I agree.
the police station. That's not a model to look back and say, oh, let's use this.
No,
But
I'm just
somebody
talking-
came, I'm just thinking of who came in with it, with everything nailed down.
I'm just talking about the trials that
Yeah.
they had trying to
Yes.
find the additional space.
No, it's difficult. And then you've got some development in the same area saying, I've got 14 on-street parking, and somebody else, I got 14 on-street parking, and
Everybody's claiming the same spot.
Yeah.
If I may, can I ask, Mr. Fiola, you're gonna speak about parking at some point? Do you wanna speak right now? Okay, yeah, can we have Ken come speak? Is that-
Sure.
okay. 'Cause I think that may
No,
address
'cause
some of
I'm just
the,
looking, it's only Ken in the back of the room.
well, I'm just
so
thinking it may address some
Are
of the
you in
board.
favor or opposed? Which one do you want us to be? All right.
Come on down. Yeah, there's no more down, it's all level now.
I'll say.
Okay.
For the record, Ken Fiola, Executive Vice President, Bristol County EDC, and I'm here to speak in favor of this project. So this project here itself falls within the downtown urban renewal district. And as part of that overall urban renewal plan, there's a main emphasis about creating market rate housing to help offset and balance the poverty levels within the urban renewal plan area itself. In this particular area, there's a 49% poverty level. It's one of the highest in the city, okay? And what this project is representing is probably somewhere in the vicinity of anywhere between $6 and $8.5, maybe $9 million of private investment to facilitate market rate housing at a location adjacent to the bus terminal. The issue of parking, and I know it's not the issue before this board, but it's an issue that needs to be addressed by the city, because you're gonna have more and more of these projects coming forward when these buildings are being converted for residential use. There's just no place for people to be parking off-street. So there's gotta be on-street parking, or there needs to be some other, solution to the issue if you wanna have these buildings converted. In many instances, throughout the Commonwealth, projects that are adjacent to bus terminals do not require any off-street parking. Now, those may be communities that
The new
use.
legislation didn't come down as far as Fall River for the MBTA for the new zoning. It stopped in Freetown.
No, it's in Fall River.
No, the one that was just proposed by,
The MBTA stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the
Well,
one.
we're becoming an MBTA.
We're coming, yeah, once we
because
become,
I didn't,
Yeah.
when I looked at the map, that was just,
once we get the commuter rail, we gotta adhere to, so we're
but
working on that.
has the council hasn't adopted that yet.
No, but we gotta.
But in the MBTA map,
Yeah.
they stopped at Freetown.
But we just got put on notice
Okay.
that we have to abide by that.
Last
that-
week.
last
Because what you're saying, it takes that restriction off.
Correct, that's right, and so these are issues that are gonna come before us continuously, right? And so I think what they're trying to do is help facilitate development of housing around these transportation centers, whether it's the commuter rail station or the bus station. There are a lot of people that still take that bus to Boston, Providence, and elsewhere. So having a market rate project physically adjacent to that bus station is a good thing. Having a private investment of, $6 to $8 to $9 million in a property census tract of 49 units is a good thing. The fact that they're trying to facilitate some parking underneath, I think is a good thing, even if it's for compact cars. I was there, and I've been going there periodically over the last 2 weeks, like probably many of you board members have as well, to see what the parking situation actually is there. And that stretch between the bus station and I forget what street that is.
Spring?
Is it the one that runs parallel to the one right where the corner is, right, where the fenced-in lot is?
Yeah, Spring Street, heading down.
Says that Spring. There's signs that say no parking.
No
but that-
parking all
You
along the
could
street.
use that for off-street parking. The fact that, Liberty Utilities has now sold the property next door, there's probably an abundance of parking that could be potentially, worked out something right across the street from that. But at some point, we're gonna need to figure out what the parking issue is, because it's not going away. And I know it's not
You're
the purview of
absolutely,
this
no,
board,
no,
right?
you're correct, and
Right.
you've heard me say this, and I'm looking at Dan as Director of Planning. That's probably something that needs to come
Yeah.
before the planning. They need to make the change in the zoning bylaw and bring it before the council,
Yeah,
because
because-
you're absolutely
Right.
correct, it needs to change.
Yeah.
Same thing with that A2 district, that's just like,
Right.
it is not good for development purposes.
No, we're trying to put round pegs into square holes, or something, however that saying goes, right? And I think, I hate to throw the baby with the bathwater, because we can't make it work because of this. So if there's a way that we can conditionally improve this somehow, I think that's a good thing. If not, I understand it. I just hate to see these types of opportunities fall by the wayside. The other,
Or maybe come back after something happens before they
But that
walk
could-
out with a denial.
well, but that could be months.
Yeah?
Right, that could be months, and, so I don't think we wanna wait months if we can facilitate the rehab of a vacant building. That building's been vacant for 10 years. What happens if something happens with it?
And I'm sure you know this, and we all grew up in Fall River. There are
Right.
lots of mills, it has to make the conversion, they're not just gonna get knocked out.
Right.
There has to be some relief, and it has to be well thought out.
Right.
And guys like you need to lead the charge about what are we gonna do, and Dan.
Yeah.
Yeah. this board, quasi judicial, here, this is what you've got, this is what you've got to apply. We've got a little bit of discretion, but not much.
No, and I think the problem that you correctly noted is when we start, when we start cherry picking what we can do for this project, what we're doing for that project.
It's not good.
Even though it's not precedent setting, the optics look like it's precedent setting, right? And whether it's, I don't want to name any projects by name, but it starts to get a little
Yes, it does.
convoluted.
Of course it
At
does.
best, right? So, again, I'm hoping that there's not a denial. I'm hoping there's something we can work with here. I understand that we got some issues here. But on the other hand, I just hate to, this is also a federal opportunity zone, which also facilitates additional investment in it. So, I don't know what the answer is. I hate to be sitting in your seats tonight because it's not an easy question, especially in light of all the other things that have gone on with regard to parking requests. But if there's some way around this that we can get some life without a denial, that's a good thing.
Did you have any update in answer to the chairman's query on the 3rd Street parking? Are there,
Well,
what's
it
the
depends on
current plan?
it depends on who you speak to, right? So, the urban renewal plan calls for the demolition of the existing 3rd Street deck and the creation of market rate housing there and a construction of a deck on the flat surface of the 3rd Street lot. Okay, so you take the flat surface lot, you go up, and you accommodate parking there. We also have looked at, as part of the urban renewal plan, the redevelopment authority has the ability to take the property across from the police station by eminent domain and put parking over there for that entire area there, right? So there's also, another big lot has to be addressed is the St. Anne's School, the St. Mary's School lot, which is sitting there in a state of disrepair and, probably needs some attention, right? So there's not a lot of places to put parking, and that's half the challenge here, and I think, if you believe, and I'm not necessarily subscribe to this theory, but if you believe the futurist, a lot more people are not going to be as interested in owning cars. It's going to be Ubers and cars upon demand and things of that nature, so parking won't be as big an issue, and some of these, giant parking garages are no longer going to be as valuable today as they once were, right? So I don't know if that's true or not, if it happens in my lifetime or not, but I just think that moving forward, we just got to come to some recognition and solution to this problem so that it doesn't put everybody in these awkward positions, and we got some sort of policy that moves the overall issue forward. On this particular issue here, I think if there's some way we can get some conditional approvals, that may be helpful. If not, I understand that as well. But I do think, I hate to see projects fall by the wayside, especially when there's the potential for investment in these impoverished census tracts. I just...
One of my components, or one of my thoughts were gonna be, reduce the number, but it sounds like the number needs to be expanded.
Yeah,
The model that we have for the parking, it's just skewing it. If you brought it down from 27 to something that was,
Maybe we
does
can
that
bring
make it work?
But then financially, it might make the
Yeah.
project.
Well, maybe there's a way we can bring it down to 20.
Yeah, I don't know. That's one of the reasons why I'm looking kind of
Did
at
we come
Attorney
up,
Salino.
I'm sorry, Scott, did we come up with the bedroom count for units?
Based upon the concept plans they provided, there was 9 2-bedroom units. Honestly, I gotta say, I don't know if that's the final design because I didn't do it.
That's important for this board to
Absolutely,
have
but
that number.
that's the best information I've been provided. Shows 9
Do you
two-bedroom units.
want to get clarification for that, or do you want to move forward with what you're presenting?
I'll get clarification, yeah.
So that's 27 minus 9, that's, don't let me do math in my head, how many one-bedrooms is that?
That's 16.
18.
18? Don't ask Karen either.
Am I buying or selling?
What was it, 9?
9 2-bedroom units.
I haven't had dinner yet either. I do think that this area does have more ability than the police station did to go seek out reserved off-street spaces in a closer vicinity than the police
And
station.
there's also that parking garage that's owned by Serta, that's right there, that has parking availability.
Are you confident that you can secure parking?
My clients are.
Yes.
So we've asked them
So
to
we
make
can,
sure.
so we
They may be
can
confident,
condition
but I'd
that.
like to see it.
Well, I'm just saying we can condition it, like you said.
They said they would accept the condition of
Yeah.
Yes.
I
many
think the
secured spaces
question
they
is
need.
conditioned on how many cars, how many
How many-
parking
Well, and that's what we
spaces.
have
So
to
that's what
decide.
we'll,
Yeah.
so
Are we
And
going,
that's
are we
the
going to go to
question.
the bylaw, which would be what, 36?
Well,
If
yeah.
we go dead to the bylaw?
well, the bylaw is 2 to 1.
No, it's 54.
54.
54.
Yeah, but I was saying,
Past practice is
I had
one
said
to
like
one.
two, on the 2-bedroom units, 2 spots per those, and then 1 spot per the 18, and that's 36. But if you're confident that they can secure them, you know, like you said, condition.
Well, and the building permit can only be issued for however many they can. So, I mean, it's up to maybe 27 units. If they can
Yeah.
only secure spaces to get them to a calculation of 24 units, then that's all the building permit can be issued for. So you can give them that flexibility of, go find some parking spaces, but at least the framework is in place for them to move forward without having to come back.
If we do a conditional approval based on a number,
Yes.
and then you are unable to meet that number, that is not a denial of the permit, they can
No,
come in
so
for a
you're
You're
modification.
gonna give them an equation to
No,
follow.
so the that's just it, the model would be,
gonna be a number,
up
yeah.
to this, and you give them the number, and if they can't get that number, then the number of units that they develop goes down.
If you want 2 spaces for a 2-bedroom unit,
Yeah.
1 space for a
Space for a
1-bedroom unit, that's gonna give you a total number at the end of the day.
Right.
They can back it in by how many spaces can we go get, how many can we get on site. It may be more beneficial for them not to renovate the basement and go secure 50 off-site spaces,
Right.
not on-street. But then the remainder of what you're not making them provide can be done on-street, which is similar to what's been done.
I just wonder what failure to meet that would result in.
In a reduction of units.
So you're doing a proportionate
That's
number
correct.
of
Correct.
so the authorization is proportionate to the number of
I'll give you,
spaces that
I'll
they
give you
can
27.
obtain?
I'll give you 27 units if you can meet this.
Yeah.
For every one that you reduce, it goes down to the number of units.
Okay, I thought
Yeah.
we were just going to set
And
a
the
number.
building department will govern that.
No,
through
because-
through the
I got
zoning.
it.
No, because if we're gonna do that, then we might as well just say yes or no,
Yeah.
black and white, that's it.
Well, condition upon doing it. Okay.
So anyway, that's what we've got. Peter, you're looking for some clarification from,
That's just my client. As far as kind of my thought process would be, if you conditionally approved it on the receipt of off-street parking, off-site parking, and then we couldn't procure it, could we not seek a modification for reduction in units?
You wouldn't have to ask for a
yeah,
modification.
that's what we were talking about.
The
We're not
permit will
looking,
say up to 27 units.
so the model
Yeah.
would be,
With a calculation of parking based upon bedrooms.
Site and
One
off-site,
space,
parking at
on-site and
large.
secured off-site.
Yeah, so
Not-
total.
Not on-street.
Not
Yeah.
On-street's gonna cover you for the remainder of
Okay.
what's left over.
Okay,
But secured on your site and secured on someone else's site
yep,
would have to meet the equation of 2 spaces for a 2-bedroom, 1 space for a 1-bedroom.
yep,
At the end of the day, if you can only secure, you've got 20 on-site, if you can
Yeah.
only secure 4 off-street spaces,
Yeah.
then you've got to figure out how many units that is.
right,
So if you can live in that framework, I think the board is
Yeah.
going beyond what they would normally do to create this skeleton for you to move forward.
got it.
Sounds reasonable.
Yeah.
New precedent setting.
No, there is no
No,
precedent.
don't say that, John Frank.
no, but Kenny's absolutely correct, because that's the perception, once we start
Yeah,
that.
that's what I'm saying. We keep doing it.
You know, and I keep saying, no, 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 it's not, but, well, you did it here, you did it
It's a
there.
moving target. That's the
Change,
problem.
but at some
It
point,
is,
someone,
but every site is specific in both directions.
no, no,
If-
it is.
If you don't have
But
the
we
ability to
start out
park
with the
on
model. We
street,
start out with the model, say,
Right.
here's the ordinance, this is
Yeah.
where we're going. And by the way, you've got authority to change it. Why don't we just, I don't know, 2035,
because there are some
there's gotta
locations
be
in the
less
city,
internal
there are
combustion
some,
engines.
there are some places in the city where there is no availability
No, there just isn't. We're
for
an old city.
on-street parking, so they should meet the demand of 2 to 1. So it really is where you are. Luckily, they're in an area that there is,
I mean, listen to those people over there on
Yeah.
Park Street,
Yeah,
you
no,
know.
that's a tough area. That's a tough spot.
I'd say 99% of the objections that we receive are based
Parking.
on parking.
Parking.
Yeah.
but without basis.
It was some yes, some no.
Well, there's no numerical basis on behalf of the opposition.
Right.
No.
I wanted to ask, well, how many spaces do you think would be sufficient?
Yeah, when they
But there
don't
won't be
even
a
know
number.
what's going on.
There won't be
Sorry.
a number, yeah.
Let's go.
That's reasonable.
Sounds reasonable to me.
As they confirmed.
Listen, you can always come back, but at least you've got one bird in
Right.
Well, if you want, yeah, I mean, if you're
All right.
looking for something tonight, then make us do it. If you're looking to come back with more, come back next meeting.
I'm looking to make you do it.
You're gonna look to make us do it?
Oh, I'm gonna ask. That sounds awful.
No, I'm telling you, why
Hold
you're
your honor
here.
for-
You're in charge. You're
And then the real guy that was your honor didn't even say that when he spoke.
know, he didn't even
Right,
say
right.
All right, you know, you're being recorded.
I understand that. I'm just saying.
I think the equation is the best way to
Right,
go. It gives them
right.
maximum flexibility without having to come back to the board.
Yep.
The maximum
doesn't-
number, and then
Yeah.
Maximum number of units, the equation is for parking, and then the building department will ensure that they meet that requirement.
Meet that requirement.
And site plan review will.
Do we want to
ensure
do a
it as well.
maximum number of units or maximum number of bedrooms?
Well,
Well, Peter's calculating, can I just offer an editorial comment? Please calculate.
Go ahead, I mean, it's a wide open meeting right now.
Because this whole parking issue is like, drives, I think, all of us collectively crazy. One thing we have to get our hands on is inspection, and I think this happens throughout these densely inhabited neighborhoods. Inspections of multifamily houses. And how many families are living within them that may be there illegally in terms of occupancy, in terms of attic apartments or basement apartments, all this other stuff, and the impact.
Good, keep
that
talking.
that
I
has
want
on-
this on the record.
Yeah, that the impact that has, I want it on the record, that has on that neighborhood in terms of cars. Right, so if you have a three family, and each family has 2 bedrooms, and now you're renting those bedrooms out for 2 families in each apartment, there's a lot more cars that are coming to that neighborhood. So one of the things that we're trying to press for as part of the Flint Urban Renewal Plan is to try to get these inspections, whereas state law mandates you're supposed to inspect these every 5 years. We haven't inspected these things in 40 years. And so what does that do to the exasperation of parking in these neighborhoods? Because you have multiple families there that are just adding to that. So this thing is a lot more complex than just meets the eye.
Very much, but let me remind you, this is the zoning
I
board
was
of
gonna
appeals.
say, this is all we have to deal with.
It's an
right?
editorial-
This is the zoning board of
That's why I said it's an editorial comment, since we were talking about parking, right? Because it's always
You
gonna
had
be
your
there.
PSA announcement, that's it, you're good.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we grant conditional approval on the proposal as submitted, and that condition being that the maximum number of units be reduced if a parking ratio of 2 spots for every 2, or 1 spot for every bedroom is.
You want to do a 1-to-1 or 2?
Well,
He's saying per bedroom, not per unit.
Per bedroom,
yeah.
per bedroom.
With a maximum of 27 units.
Okay? So that's Jim Corkins' model for the grant of this particular project.
I'll second.
Second, Dan Dupere. Okay? Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none.
It is not a conditional improvement. It is not a conditional.
It's an approval with a condition.
Right.
It is an approval.
It's approval with the condition that they do
Zoning
that, so
amendments,
they,
correct.
Just so it's written, yeah, then I want to make sure. This is a vote, not a.
no, this is a vote, this is a
Air
vote.
quotes vote.
Here you
This
go,
is a
you
real
get it,
vote.
and the model is
Yeah.
based on what they
Thank
can
you.
provide for parking,
Thank you.
okay? Got it? Okay.
Got it.
Dan Dupere.
Yes.
Joe Pereira.
Yes.
John Frank.
Yes.
Yeah. Jim Corkins.
Yes.
Chairman Assad, no. So, but it carries, 4-1, it's passed. And maybe Dan, I mean, we'll work on getting the planning board to change that.
Well, we have, I mean,
No, we have to.
when we had a
So anyway,
planner, we
so now
had,
that.
my first month, I rewrote almost the entire zoning bylaw.
Do we have any citizen input? Kenny, you used your 3 minutes up.
I'm all good.
Everyone, we saw the minutes of July 21st meeting that Nina had sent around. Are there any additions or deletions that I move that?
Waiving of the reading and acceptance of the minutes.
Okay, by Jim Corkins, do we have a second? Somebody seconded.
Second.
Second, John Frank, any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, John Frank?
Yes.
Jim Corkins?
Yes.
Dan Dupere?
Yes.
Joe Pereira,
Yes.
chairman aside, yes. Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, Dan Dupere, second. Joe Pereira. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Dan Dupere?
Yes.
Joe Pereira?
Yes.
John Frank?
Yes.
Jim Corkins?
Yes.
Chairman aside, yes. The zoning board of appeals for the city of Fall River is hereby closed.
Gotta
Thank
get
you
you a
all.